Chapter 447. Li Mu sighed with Hu Jiao. Yes, who leaked the secret? Hu Jiao looked at Li Mu and seemed to realize something. She murmured, damn it, did I accidentally leak it when I was drunk? Shoo. Li Mu put his index finger on his lips and said, Brother Hu Jiao, be careful. Don't drink any more. In the end, Maisong sect did not find out the spy. The matter of Hu Lu being exposed was left unsettled. In Illusion Princess Mansion, Li Mu put his hand on Illusion Princess's shoulder, but his mind was not on her. He could not go on like this. He did not have the patience to spy beside Illusion Princess for 8 to 10 years. When Lord of Illusions came out, the risk of him being exposed would increase greatly. He had to get the tomes of Arcane as soon as possible. But how? Li Mu massaged Illusion Princess's shoulder with no interest. A figure in white slowly walked in from outside. It was an extremely handsome young man. He walked in with a smile on his face, and a trace of surprise flashed through his eyes when he saw Li Mu behind Huanji. After that he said, Junior sister, he's the snake demon that joined the charm sect not long ago, right? Junior sister, have you investigated him? Illusion Princess looked at him indifferently and said, Are you suspecting my people? The young man smiled and said, Junior sister, don't misunderstand. I'm just reminding you. Hu Lu's incident happened not long ago. We have to be vigilant. If someone with ulterior motives sneaks into Maisong sect and something like Hu Lu happens again, Maisong sect will lose. After saying this he said, Father is holding a banquet in the palace tonight. Mother asked me to invite junior sister. Illusion Princess said without hesitation, I have something important to do tonight. You can go back first. I'm going to cultivate. The young man nodded and said, Then I will go back first. After turning around, the smile on his face disappeared and was replaced by a gloomy look. Seeing the young man turn around and leave, Li Mu looked away from his back. He had been in the Thousand Fox Nation for some time and had some understanding of this person's identity. This person was also a fox demon, but compared to other fox demons, his status was much more noble. He was the only disciple of the Lord of Illusions and the Crown Prince of the Thousand Fox Nation. Although the Myriad Illusion Heavenly Lord had a high status in Thousand Fox and was respected by the demons, the Huan clan was not a royal clan. The royal family of Thousand Fox was surnamed Bai and the royal family was the Bai clan. However, the 10,000 Illusions Lord was very powerful. Even the imperial family respected him very much. The Phantom Princess also had a high status in the Thousand Fox country. Li Mu had heard from Hu Jiao more than once that Bai Xian, the crown prince of the Thousand Fox country, had been chasing after Huanji. Everyone knew that even though the Lord of Heaven had a son and a daughter, Lord Huanji was the one who received the true teachings of the Lord of Heaven. The Lord of Heaven had even passed down the heavenly book to her. Whoever could marry Huanji or be married by her would have a limitless future. Entering the Maisong sect, capturing Li Mu and marrying Huanji were the three highest ideals of the demons of Thousand Fox country. Li Mu stood behind Huanji and said, The crown prince likes Lord Huanji. Huanji said indifferently, The line of people who like me can stretch from here to the divine capital. Bai Xian is not one of them. I heard from Hu Jiao that you also like me? Hu Jiao did not disappoint Li Mu. As long as he told Hu Jiao a secret, it was the same as telling everyone. Li Mu said honestly, The first time I saw Lord Huanji I fell in love with you. I have liked you for a long time. If other girls heard this they might panic. However, Huanji had experienced this countless times. Even her tone did not change at all. She said, You are too weak. I will not like a man who is weaker than me. Li Mu did not know what was wrong with her. If the Empress also thought this way she would probably be lonely for the rest of her life. Although he was complaining in his heart, his expression became firm. He said, I will work hard to cultivate. Huanji shook her head. She could not bear to hurt him anymore. After all, she had bullied him enough. She had to give him some hope. At this moment, Li Mu asked again, Lord Huanji, what kind of contribution do I need to make to be able to comprehend the heavenly book? Huanji asked casually, Why do you need to comprehend the heavenly book? Li Mu said, I heard that the heavenly book contains the laws of heaven and earth. Those who comprehend the heavenly book can comprehend the laws of heaven and earth and become stronger. Huanji did not expect him to be so determined to become stronger. She smiled and said, You don't need to make any contributions. Follow me for 5 years. After 5 years, I will ask my father to make an exception and let you comprehend the heavenly book once. Li Mu shook his head. 5 years is too long. I have no chance. Huanji leaned comfortably on the chair and said, Then there is no other way. Unless you can subdue the wolf clan or capture Li Mu alive in front of me. Or you can bring the heads of the top 10 heretical cultivation here. After a while, Li Mu found Hu Jiao and asked, "What are the top 10 heretical cultivation?" Hu Jiao asked in confusion, "Why do you ask this?" Li Mu said, "Tell me first." Hu Jiao explained, "The top 10 heretical cultivation are the 10 hangers-on of the Zhejiang Commandery Prince. They are all evil people. Their hands are stained with the blood of the demon clan. The Meizong sect has tried to assassinate them many times, but they are not weak and very cunning. They are also protected by the great Zhou court. We have been helpless against them." The top 10 heretical cultivation did not refer to the 10 most powerful heretical cultivation cultivators, but specifically to the 10 hangers-on of the Zhejiang Commandery Prince. Their cultivation was the strongest in the creation realm, and the weakest in the heretical cultivation. Their strength was not the strongest, but their background was the most profound. They firmly controlled the black industry that sold and hunted the demon clan. Countless demons were killed by them. Some were killed for their elixirs and souls, and some were sold to cultivators as cultivation furnaces or entertainment tools. Because they had the support of the Zhejiang Commandery Prince and the imperial court, no one dared to provoke them. Hu Jiao looked at Li Mu and asked, "Why do you ask this?" Li Mu waved his hand and said, "Just asking." In the morning after Huanji got up and washed up, she habitually shouted, "Li Mu." No one in the courtyard next to her responded. "Li Mu?" Huanji shouted a few more times, but there was still no response. She flew to the courtyard next door, but there was no sign of Li Mu. She opened the door, and the quilt on the bed was neatly folded. She thought that Li Mu had gone out, but he did not appear for the entire day. It was not until nighttime that Huanji found Hu Jiao and asked, "Did you see Li Mu today?" Hu Jiao was surprised and said, "Little Snake, isn't Little Snake following you from morning to night?" Huanji said, "I didn't see him today." Hu Jiao said, "I'll send someone to look for him." Not long after, Hu Jiao flew back with a puzzled expression and said, "I've looked everywhere in the city. Bathhouses, brothels, and taverns, but there was no sign of him." Li Mu had never disappeared for no reason, except for the time when he broke into the heretical cultivation organization alone and took back Hu Jiao's body. Huanji seemed to have realized something and blurted out, "Did he really go to kill the top 10 heretical cultivation?" The top 10 heretical cultivation organization. Hu Jiao also remembered something and said in shock, "He just asked me about the top 10 heretical cultivation organization yesterday. Why would he go to kill them?" Huanji was annoyed and said, "I told him that as long as he killed the top 10 heretical cultivation organization, he would be able to comprehend the heavenly book. I didn't expect him to really go." Hu Jiao was worried and said, "Lord Huanji, you shouldn't have said that. You know that Little Snake looks smart, but he is stubborn. Even if you were just joking, he would definitely take it seriously." Huanji was also regretful and murmured, How would I know that he would really go?" Hu Jiao flew around anxiously and said, It's over. If he wants to kill the top 10 heretical cultivation organization, he will definitely go to Zhejiang County and the Zhejiang County King's Mansion. There are countless experts there. You will die there. No, Little Snake is so beautiful, he might die there. Why does he have to comprehend the heavenly book? Huanji didn't know how to describe her current feelings. She knew why Li Mu had to comprehend the heavenly book. He wanted to become stronger because of what she said. Just because she said that she didn't like men who were weaker than her, he risked his life for the chance to become stronger. Huanji's heart was very complicated. She gritted her teeth and said, "This idiot." Chapter 448. Zhejiang County. Zhejiang County bordered the Yao Kingdom, but it was not like the northern county, where the ancestral court of Fu Lu School, one of the 6 Taoist sects, was in charge. Demons ran rampant in the county, and there were often incidents of demons harassing people. The local government was very worried about such cases, but they were not worried about a large-scale invasion by the Yao Kingdom. The imperial court had stationed a large number of troops around Zhejiang County. Demons that were slightly more powerful could not enter this place at all. Demons of the 6th realm and above were all blocked outside the border. However, this place was close to the Yao Kingdom after all. There were no big demons, but there were many small demons. In Xinjiang County, the snake demon incident had spread in the past 2 days. The cause of the incident was a woodcutter in the mountains. When he was gathering firewood, he accidentally fell off a cliff and almost lost his life. Just when he was exhausted and couldn't hold on to the rock anymore, someone suddenly grabbed him by the shoulder and flew him up the cliff. The person who saved him was an extremely beautiful woman. She had the body of a human and the tail of a snake. She was a snake demon. The woodcutter immediately went down the mountain in shock and reported this to the government. The government sent cultivators to investigate, but they did not find anything. In Xinjiang County, in a mountain where the snake demon incident spread, 2 figures flew over and landed on the cliff. It should be here. I wonder if the snake girl is still here. Let's not let others get ahead of us. Let's use the snake-seeking talisman to check. The 2 men exchanged a few words. One of them took out a prepared fulu and threw it into the air. The fulu stabilized and quickly flew in a direction. There's a reaction. The snake demon is still here. It's very likely that she's nearby. Chase after her. The 2 men happily chased after the fulu. Not long after, a strong wave of mana came from a forest in the mountains. Not long after, 2 men happily walked out of the forest. One of them carried a cloth bag on his shoulder and said with a smile, "This snake girl is indeed beautiful. She can definitely be sold for a good price. I want to use her to exchange for some spiritual jades and use them to break through to the 4th realm." As soon as he finished speaking, his body suddenly shook. He lowered his head to look at the blood-red sword that had pierced through his chest. His face was blank. His companion behind him smiled and said, "Sorry, I also want to break through to the 4th realm. However, the spiritual jades exchanged for this snake demon can only satisfy one person." Sorry. The man's body was pierced through. His nascent spirit struggled to escape, but he had lost his body and was only left with his nascent spirit. How could he be a match for a cultivator of the same level who still had his body and nascent spirit? He was quickly caught and his nascent spirit was destroyed. After the other man destroyed the corpse, he picked up the sack and quickly disappeared. Xinjiang County Wu family courtyard. The Wu family was a powerful family in Xinjiang County. The head of the family, Wu Liang, was a cultivator and had many friends. Cultivators often went in and out of the Wu family. The head of the family, Wu Liang, was also a hanger-on of the Zhejiang commandery prince. He had a great influence in Xinjiang County. Even the Xinjiang County government had to give some face to the Wu family. The Wu family courtyard was not in Xinjiang County. Instead, it was 10 miles west of the city. It was an independent manor that occupied an extremely large area. A carriage slowly stopped at the back door of the Wu family. 2 people alighted from the carriage carrying a gray sack and entered the Wu family. One of them made a hand seal and muttered something. A hole suddenly opened in the ground. The 2 of them jumped in and the hole quickly closed. There was another world under the Wu residence. The buildings on the surface of the manor were already very luxurious. Underground it was even more luxurious. It was not an exaggeration to call it an underground palace. Buildings stood side by side. Occasionally people would enter and exit. Most of them were warm and fragrant women. The 2 men carried the sack and walked to the innermost part of the manor. They followed the stairs and went down another floor. On the 2nd floor of the basement there were many small cubicles. It was like a prison cell. In the cubicles there were men and women, humans and demons. All of them were handsome. However, the figures in the cubicles, regardless of whether they were men or women, had the same numb expression. They were like walking corpses. The entire basement of the basement was abnormally quiet. It was even a little dead. One of them opened the sack and revealed a beautiful woman. "Go in." He pushed the woman into a cubicle and closed the door. He turned and left. Gradually, whispers could be heard from the compartments on the 2nd basement floor. Another one. "It seems to be a demon. She's so beautiful." "So what if she's beautiful? In a few days she'll end up like us." After the woman was locked in, she leaned against the wall and sat down. She did not say a word. The people around her only paid attention to her for a while. Soon they fell into silence again. From time to time, people would come in and take people away from the cubicles. Not long after they would be sent back. After some time, someone finally walked to the woman's cubicle and said, "You come out with me." Wu residence. Inner courtyard. A middle-aged man walked into the inner courtyard. The old man beside him said in a flattering tone, "Master, a snake demon has just arrived at the residence. It looks so beautiful and it is very likely that it is still a fledgling. It has already been sent to your room." A hint of excitement appeared in Wu Liang's eyes. He said, "A snake demon is good. Snake demons are the best at pestering people. With some training she'll be another pillar here." He walked to the door and excitedly rubbed his hands. He said, "If you hear any sounds coming from the room, don't come in." The butler quickly said, "Master, don't worry. We definitely won't disturb your mood." Even if the family head did not say so, they would not dare to enter. If they disturbed his mood at this time, they would be seriously injured or even lose their lives. This was the experience of countless people who used their lives. Wu Liang pushed the door and entered. He quickly closed the door. He looked at the woman sitting at the head of the bed. His eyes suddenly lit up. Even though he had seen countless demons, he had never seen one of such quality. He could not help but pounce to the side of the bed. Outside the courtyard, a few servants of the Wu residents who were waiting here heard the family head's painful cries. They could not help but be puzzled. What was the family head doing inside? Why was he crying out like that? One of them hesitated and said, "Will the family head be okay?" The old butler waved his hand and said, calm down, calm down. This is not the first time. You'll get used to it." Inside the room, Li Mu pressed a hand on the middle-aged man's forehead and forcibly finished searching his soul. His face slowly turned gloomy. When he was in the dungeon, he already knew that this person, who was ranked last in the top 10 heretical cultivation by Meizong sect, was a follower of the Zhejiang Commandery Prince on the surface. However, what he did behind the scenes was dirty and disgusting. They did not only kidnap demons but also humans. After those female demons, female cultivators, and even male demons were kidnapped, the beautiful demons would be used as cultivation furnaces. The ugly ones would be killed directly for their cores or souls. Although there were fewer human cultivators, they still existed. Of course, it was much faster and more comfortable to harvest other people's energies than to cultivate by oneself. Therefore, it attracted a large number of cultivators. They paid spiritual jades or became the follower of the Zhejiang Commandery Prince. They became regular customers here. And this kind of business gave birth to another black industry. If there were people who needed demons to harvest, there would be people who caught demons for them to harvest. Therefore, a large number of cultivators began to capture demons and sell them to these people. This had become a huge black industry in the Zhejiang Commandery. The Zhejiang Commandery Prince stood at the source of this industry. Li Mu did not know why the Zhejiang Commandery Prince attracted these cultivators through this, but it was definitely not a good thing for the imperial court. He withdrew his hand and did not kill Wu Liang directly. This person had left a life talisman with the Zhejiang Commandery Prince. Once his soul disappeared and the life talisman shattered, the Zhejiang Commandery Prince would be able to sense it immediately. This would not be good for Li Mu's next move. He sealed Wu Liang's primordial spirit and temporarily kept it in the flask heaven space. Not long after, the door opened and a figure walked out from inside. Outside the courtyard, the old man hurried in and asked, "Master, should we bring her out?" Wu Liang said lightly, "No need. The snake demon is indeed delicious. I want to taste it again tonight. Let her rest first and recover her energy. No one is to disturb her. Otherwise I'll break his neck." The old man hurriedly said, "Yes, yes, yes. I'll immediately instruct them." Wu Liang walked out of the courtyard and said, "Prepare the carriage. I'm going out to Muda's residence." Lord Mu was his master's best friend. Both of them were also the Zhejiang Commandery Prince's retainers. The old man said, "I'll prepare the carriage now." 15 minutes later, at the Mu residence, a man looked at Wu Liang and smiled. "I heard that you have a new snake demon. Let me taste it first." "I haven't tasted a snake demon yet." Wu Liang looked around and lowered his voice. "I have an important matter to discuss with you. Let's talk about it behind closed doors." Muda saw his serious expression and also became serious. He closed the door and cast a soundproof spell. Then he asked, "What is it?" Wu Liang smiled and said mysteriously, "Come closer." 15 minutes later, the door opened. Two figures walked out side by side and left the Mu residence. The servants of the Mu clan were not surprised by this. The relationship between the two masters was quite good. Their master had left with Lord Wu to taste the wonderful taste of a snake demon. They had heard that snake demons were the best at pestering people, but they did not know if that was true. In the carriage, Muda had just entered the carriage when he collapsed. Li Mu continued to search his memories. He whispered, "Who's next?" Chapter 449. Zhejiang Commandery Prince's Mansion. Everyone knew that the Commandery Prince of Zhejiang liked to make friends. Most of the reputable cultivators in Zhejiang Commandery were friends with the Commandery Prince of Zhejiang. Many cultivators even became his followers and received many benefits from the Commandery Prince's mansion every month. At the beginning of every month, on the 15th, the Commandery Prince of Zhejiang would invite his friends to a banquet. All the cultivators in Zhejiang Commandery were honored to be invited. Today was the 15th, the day of the banquet. The Commandery Prince of Zhejiang was entertaining a few new friends when he saw a few empty seats at the banquet. He asked his followers, "Who didn't come today?" A man beside him said, Lord Wu, Lord Mu, and Lord Mei are cultivating in seclusion in Lord Wu's residence to comprehend a divine ability. They sent someone to apply for leave. After the commandery prince of Zhejiang asked for the reason, he didn't take it to heart. Even cultivators couldn't get rid of the desire for good food. The banquet was very sumptuous. The guests drank and chatted. In my opinion, the commandery prince should just become the prince of Zhejiang. The world belongs to the Shao family. Why should he be the servant of the Zhou family? What kind of world is this? A woman can be the emperor. I've never heard of it. Sooner or later, the great Zhou will be restored to the Shao family. I think the commandery prince is most qualified to be the new emperor. In the corner of the commandery prince's mansion, a figure was drinking by himself and listening to the discussions. After the banquet, he left with the crowd. Li Mu had already captured 4 of the top 10 heretical cultivation masters and disguised himself as one to attend the commandery prince of Zhejiang's banquet. When he left the commandery prince's mansion, he was relieved. The people gathered in the commandery prince's mansion were just a bunch of mobs. Most of them were at the concentration theurgy. Only a few of them were at the 5th realm. Even if they gathered together, they wouldn't be able to do much. However, the commandery prince of Zhejiang had invested a lot in gathering these people. If it weren't for the huge income from his underground business, he wouldn't have been able to afford so many followers and friends. Li Mu originally intended to continue moving, but his eyebrows suddenly raised, and his figure hid in a dark alley. With a flip of his hand, a small and exquisite compass the size of a palm appeared in his hand. This compass was one of the treasures Illusion Princess had given him. She didn't say what it was used for, but at this moment the compass needle suddenly moved and pointed in a certain direction. Li Mu followed the compass and arrived at an inn. He walked up to the 2nd floor of the inn and stood in front of a door. The door opened and Hu Jiu appeared in front of Li Mu. Li Mu walked into the room and his expression changed. He looked at Hu Jiu and asked in surprise, "Why are you here?" Hu Jiu winked at Li Mu and stepped back slowly, revealing a figure behind her. She said, "It's not just me." Li Mu quickly walked forward and lowered his head. "Lord Fantasy Princess." Illusion Princess was expressionless and asked calmly, "Did I tell you not to act on your own?" Li Mu said innocently, "Lord Fantasy Princess, didn't you ask me to kill the 10 heretical cultivation masters?" Illusion Princess opened her eyes wide. "When did I ask you to kill the 10 heretical cultivation masters?" Li Mu, you said that as long as I killed the 10 heretical cultivation masters, I would be able to comprehend the heavenly book. Illusion Princess was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. "Did I mean that?" Li Mu was confused. "Is it not?" Illusion Princess's chest heaved up and down even more. Hu Jiu quickly floated over and explained, "Lord Fantasy Princess, calm down, calm down. Little Snake's brain is stubborn. It's not the first time you know." Illusion Princess's chest finally calmed down and she said coldly, "Come back with me." "Li Mu, I can't go back yet." He waved his hand and 4 straight bodies were placed neatly on the ground. Hu Jiu glanced around and exclaimed, "Wuliang Mu Da Mei Ren? 4 of the 10 people are here. How many days has it been?" He looked at Li Mu in disbelief. The place where they live is heavily guarded and there are layers of checks. It's also covered by a formation. "How did you break in?" Li Mu explained, "I didn't break in. They brought me in themselves." He explained the ins and outs of the matter. From the beginning to the end, he had only relied on the art of transformation, relying on the element of surprise to catch the enemy off guard. Then he said, "These people's cultivation is not high, so it's easy to sneak up on them. The others are all at the 5th realm, so I'm not completely confident." Hu Jiu looked at Li Mu in a daze. He was good at hiding and could transform. He was simply a natural killer. If he was well prepared, it wouldn't be difficult for him to kill people at a higher realm. Huan Ji pondered for a moment and said, "Don't worry about the others. You've already captured 4 people. If you make a move now, you'll be discovered easily. Let's save the people in the underground palace first." Li Mu looked hesitant and said, "But then I won't be able to collect the heads of the 10 villains." Huan Ji hit his head angrily and said, "When we go back, I'll let you comprehend the tomes of arcane. You idiot, if you act on your own again, I'll expel you from Meizong's sect." Li Mu rubbed his head and said solemnly, "Yes." For Huan Ji, saving the people who were suffering was obviously more important than killing the enemies. But with their abilities, they couldn't save so many people at the same time. They needed to go back to Thousand Fox City to gather more strong people from Meizong's sect. On the way, Huan Ji gritted her teeth and said, "Damn Li Mu. If he hadn't taken the Demon King's cave, we could have saved everyone this time. Li Mu looked innocent. Huan Ji seemed to realize something and explained, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the other Li Mu. Li Mu heaved a sigh of relief and said, That's good, that's good. Li Mu had given enough reasons for the people who disappeared from Zhejiang Commandery Prince's retainers. They were either in seclusion or out. As long as their primordial spirits weren't destroyed, no one would suspect that something had happened to them in a short period of time. But Li Mu could only delay for half a month at most. When the next banquet was held by Zhejiang Commandery Prince, if they didn't show up, people would be suspicious. Huan Ji needed to spend some time to gather the strong people from Meizong sect. Li Mu stood in the courtyard and was hesitating whether he should remind her about the tomes of arcane when he heard Huan Ji's call. Li Mu jumped over the wall and came to Huan Ji's room. He knocked on the door. Come in. Hearing Huan Ji's voice, Li Mu pushed the door open and entered. Huan Ji threw out an item and said, Take it. Li Mu took it and realized that it was a spiritual jade. But it was different from normal spiritual jades. In the center of this spiritual jade, there seemed to be a drop of blood sealed. Li Mu could feel Huan Ji's chi from it. Huan Ji said lightly, Take this item with you. Don't put it in the flask space. Li Mu put it in his sleeve and said, Yes. He roughly understood what it was. Huan Ji had sealed a drop of her essence blood in this spiritual jade. This way, within a certain range, she could sense Li Mu's presence. On the other hand, if Li Mu left this range, she would be able to sense him immediately. It was obvious that this was to prevent him from acting on his own like the previous 2 times. After doing all this, Huan Ji stretched out her hand. A page that Li Mu had been drooling over appeared in her palm. Huan Ji looked at him and said, This is the page of the heavenly book. Father is in seclusion. Without Father's permission I can't let you study it. But you have contributed a lot to Meizong sect. I can make an exception this time. You only have 1 night. Make good use of it. Li Mu held the heavenly book with both hands and said gratefully, Thank you, Lord Huan Ji. Huan Ji said lightly, No need to thank me. You used your own merits to exchange for this. You can study it here. Tonight you can't leave this place. Yes. Li Mu nodded and then sat down cross-legged. He suppressed the joy in his heart. Just as he was about to study it, he suddenly realized something. He looked up at Huan Ji and asked, Lord Huan Ji, how do I study the heavenly book? In a moment of excitement, he almost forgot that he was playing the role of a country bumpkin snake who had never seen the world. He had never even seen the heavenly book before. How could he know how to study it? Huan Ji walked to the table and sat down. Use your spiritual sense to feel it or use your finger to touch it. Li Mu took a deep breath and touched the page with his finger. He slowly closed his eyes. The room returned to silence. Huan Ji held her chin with one hand and looked at the figure who was seriously studying the heavenly book. She looked a little helpless. She did not know if she should be happy or sad that she had such a hothead under her command. If she said that he was obedient, he always acted on his own and did not listen to orders. If she said that he was disobedient, there was no one more obedient than him. He listened to almost everything she said and fulfilled all of her unreasonable requests without any complaints. After staring at this familiar face for a long time, Huan Ji thought of another troublesome thing. The damned Li Mu beside the Empress of Great Zhou had become a stone in her heart. She could not pick it up or let it go. She paced back and forth between revenge and gratitude. She was hesitant. In the end, she gritted her teeth and made a decision. Rather than being conflicted for a long time, it was better to make a quick decision. From now on, she and Li Mu had nothing to do with each other. In the future, she would keep the little snake by her side. When she had nothing to do, she could bully him. This could be considered as venting her anger. Although this was not fair to the little snake, as long as she compensated him later, she held her chin with both hands and looked at the face in front of her. Although this face was handsome, it was really asking for a beating. Chapter 450. Li Mu was in a valley covered in green grass. In the distance, the mountains were green and nearby there was a gurgling stream. Foxes were jumping on the grass beside the stream. Some of them only had 1 or 2 tails, while some had a bunch of tails behind them. Some had 5, 6, 7, or 8 tails behind them. On a rock in the distance stood a slender white fox. Behind it, 9 long tails fluttered in the wind. Li Mu swallowed his saliva. The 9-tailed celestial fox was a supreme being among demons. It was comparable to a true dragon. It was the highest form of the fox clan. It was also the ultimate goal of Little White Fantasy Princess and the other fox demons. 9-tailed fox looked back at Li Mu. Their eyes met and Li Mu felt dizzy. Then he realized that the one standing on the rock was himself. In the morning, Li Mu slowly opened his eyes in Phantom Princess's room. Phantom Princess sat beside the table and asked, "What did you see?" Li Mu said, "White fog, thick white fog." Phantom Princess continued to ask, "What else?" Li Mu thought for a moment and said, "A three-tailed fox, a charm god art, an illusion god art." The mystical thing about the heavenly book was that different people would see different things when they comprehended it. Every time they comprehended it, the things they saw would also be different. Charm and illusion were the basic divine abilities of the Fox clan after they transformed. Even if they comprehended it, it wouldn't be of much use. Phantom Princess didn't tell Li Mu that he didn't comprehend anything useful from the heavenly book. She only said, "Cultivate well in the future. These two god arts are also very powerful when cultivated to a high level." Li Mu cupped his fists and said, "I will work hard." Walking out of Phantom Princess's courtyard, Li Mu's expression was a bit melancholy. Hu Jiao floated over and asked, "What's wrong? Master Phantom Princess scolded you again?" Li Mu didn't answer and just put his arm around her shoulder and said, "Let's go and drink. It's my treat today." Hu Jiao was shocked. "Did the sun rise from the west today? You're treating me? Why don't you treat? Just pretend that I didn't say anything." It would take Huanji 2 or 3 days to gather the experts of the Meizong sect. During these days there was nothing urgent. Li Mu and Hu Jiao were drinking and eating in a restaurant in the Thousand Fox City, chatting with each other intermittently. Now that Li Mu had achieved his goal, it was time to consider leaving. His initial plan was to help Xiao by obtain the subsequent cultivation method, and then take the opportunity to escape. From then on, the name of Daniel Wu would completely disappear from the monster race. But when the day came, Li Mu couldn't be so straightforward. To Hu Jiao and Huanji, Little Snake was a member of Meizong sect. Although he was a little stubborn, he was loyal and did not fear death. They would let Little Snake live in their hearts forever. Li Mu asked casually, "When will the Lord of Heaven come out of seclusion?" Hu Jiao said, "Why do you ask?" Li Mu smiled honestly and said, "I admire the Lord of Heaven very much. I don't know when I can meet him." Hu Jiao shook her head and said, "I think it will be a long time. The Lord of Heaven has been in seclusion often these years, and each time he stays in seclusion is longer than the last. I'm afraid we'll have to wait for a year and a half this time." Li Mu was actually most worried about Illusion Lord of Heaven coming out of seclusion. The power of a 7th realm expert was beyond his imagination. If Illusion Lord of Heaven could see through his disguise, all his previous efforts would be in vain. Li Mu was relieved to hear this from Hu Jiao. When they were halfway through their meal, a bell suddenly rang on the peak. It was the bell of Meizong sect for gathering. They didn't delay and immediately flew to the peak. Many people from Meizong sect had already gathered on the peak. Illusion Princess and Prince Bai Xian of Thousand Fox Country were also there. They were both elders of Meizong sect. Another handsome man with 6th realm cultivation who looked similar to Illusion Princess was accompanying a young man. The young man was dressed in white with a black lotus embroidered on his chest. Li Mu's eyes turned cold. The black lotus was the symbol of the Demonic Path Sacred Sect. The status of the Demonic Path Sacred Sect in Demonic Path was equivalent to the status of Baiyun Mountain Ancestral Court in Fulu School. The subsects didn't submit to anyone, but the Sacred Sect had absolute control over the other 9 sections. Even a long time ago, these 9 sects were separated from the Sacred Sect. As a force that existed longer than Taoism and Buddhism, the Demonic Path Sacred Sect had always been a synonym for mystery. Outsiders, even the other sects of the Demonic Path, knew very little about them. Li Mu had the memory of 1,000 illusions venerable, but he only knew that the Sacred Sect was very powerful. There might be existences beyond the 7th realm among them. Even the Demon Emperor Bai from 3,000 years ago was extremely afraid of the demonic path in the depths of his memory. The Meizong sect gathered this time just to welcome this person from the Sacred Sect. Not long after, the young man from the Sacred Sect went to the palace. The people of the Meizong sect dispersed. Li Mu and Hu Jiao returned to the restaurant. They had only finished half of their food and wine. Hu Jiao looked in the direction of the palace. She raised her head and took a sip of wine. She sighed softly. Li Mu asked, "What's wrong?" Hu Jiao said worriedly, "The people from the Sacred Sect have come with ill intentions. The conflict between the Lord of Heaven and the Sacred Sect has been going on for a long time. The Lord of Heaven didn't agree with the matter of the Zhejiang Commander-in-Chief. Later, the Sacred Sect bypassed the Lord of Heaven and sent Cui Ming to the Great Zhou Court through the case of the Zhejiang Commander-in-Chief. The Lord of Heaven had no choice but to accept it. All these years, the Lord of Heaven has been cultivating wholeheartedly. The First Elder and Lord Illusion Princess have disobeyed the orders of the sacred sect many times. The sacred sect has been disobeyed by the sacred sect and the sacred sect. There was still too little information about the demon sect from the imperial court. If Wuxia hadn't mentioned it, Li Mu wouldn't have known about the conflict between the sacred sect and the Meizong sect. Many people from the Meizong sect and the Meizong sect also wanted to overthrow the Great Zhou court. However, they overthrew the rule of the Great Zhou in order to establish a demon clan regime. They didn't want the demon clan to be exploited and killed by humans. The Meizong sect hated humans, but she didn't vent her anger on all humans. Over the years, while they rescued the demon clan, they also rescued many humans. However, some people from the demon clan only wanted to destroy and kill. The Meizong sect ignored the orders of the sacred sect and gradually incurred the dissatisfaction of the sacred sect. Li Mu was certainly happy to see the internal strife of the demon clan. However, Wuxia was quite worried. The mysteriousness and power of the sacred sect were rooted in the deepest part of everyone's heart. Even the Lord Saint wouldn't have a good end if he went against them. The sacred sect emissary stayed in the Thousand Fox country for 2 days. The royal family of the Fox country accompanied him the whole time. Illusion Princess also had to accompany him. Therefore she didn't order Li Mu around these 2 days. Imperial Palace. Illusion Princess received Wuxia's message. Several strong people from the Meizong sect had already returned to the Thousand Fox city. She cupped her hands to the youth and said, "Lord Emissary, I still have important matters to attend to. Please forgive me for leaving first." The youth didn't speak. The Crown Prince of the Thousand Fox country Bai Xian looked at her and said with dissatisfaction, "Junior sister, you don't know the rules. What is more important than the Lord Emissary?" Illusion Princess said calmly, "There are countless people suffering. I have to go save them." Bai Xian said angrily, "Junior sister, you..." The youth in white smiled and said, "Saving people is more important. Miss Illusion Princess, you can go." Illusion Princess cupped her hands to him and flew away. After Illusion Princess left, Bai Xian said apologetically, "Lord Emissary, please don't be angry. My junior sister has been so unruly since she was young." The youth in white looked at the sky and said lightly, "She's not the only one who doesn't know the rules in the Huan family." Hearing this, Bai Xian was shocked and didn't know what to say. The youth in white looked at him and said, "I actually came this time to tell you something." Bai Xian cupped his hands and bowed. He said respectfully, "Please tell me, Lord Emissary." The youth in white said, "The elders hope that the Bai family can control the Meizong sect." Bai Xian was ecstatic, but his face showed a difficult expression. He said, "The Meizong sect trusts Master. Senior brother Huan Yun and junior sister Huan Ji are the controllers of the Meizong sect. Although the Bai family has many people in the Meizong sect, they don't have much power. After all, Master is at the 7th realm and senior brother Huan Yun is at the 6th realm." The youth in white said, "It's not important whether you can or not. What's important is whether you want to or not." Bai Xian said, "I want to, but Master won't agree. Senior brother Huan Yun and junior sister Huan Ji won't give up the Meizong sect." The youth in white smiled and asked, "What if they all die?" Bai Xian's face turned red. He said, "Lord Emissary, the heavenly monarch is my master. Senior brother Huan Yun is like my brother. Junior sister Huan Ji is my most beloved woman." The youth in white said, "So you can't do it?" Bai Xian took a deep breath and said, "Please let me do it myself. My Bai family is the king of the Fox family. I've tolerated that old thing for a long time." The youth in white smiled and said, "Very good." Not long after, Bai Xian came to the Huanji manor. A servant said, "Your Highness, Lord Huanji just left." Bai Xian said with a worried expression, "What should we do? I just did a divination for junior sister Huanji. The divination showed a bad omen." Chapter 451. In the northwest of the ancestral state, there were endless mountains. Zhejiang County was an important barrier. It was guarded by a large number of troops, closely monitoring every move of the Yao nation. Although there were many troops, the security of Zhejiang County was not good. The existence of the garrison was to defend against external enemies and would not easily interfere with local politics. Zhejiang County was bordered by the Yao Kingdom, and the county was filled with demons and bandits. The common people lived in groups, and when they went out, they often traveled in groups. Zhejiang County, one of the 9 counties. A woman in white slowly walked on the mountain path. The woman was extremely beautiful. Her figure was graceful and her face was beautiful. She was naturally charming. When the woodcutter saw her, he could not take his eyes off her. He almost took a wrong step and stepped into a cliff. After the shock, he panted and said to his companion, "Such a beautiful girl dares to go out alone. In the past few months at least 8 if not 10 women have mysteriously disappeared around here." His companion disagreed and said, "A beauty who dares to go out alone these days can't be an ordinary person. She might be an immortal or a demon. Look at how beautiful she is. She's like a fox spirit. How can a person be so beautiful?" On the mountain path, the beautiful woman continued to walk. When she passed by a dense forest, a figure suddenly walked out of the forest. It was a young man in blue. He had the cultivation of spirit condensation. He looked at the woman on the mountain path with a fiery gaze and praised, "What a beautiful woman! Such a beautiful woman, even if she was not a rare demon, could be sold for a very good price." After all, although female demons were rarer, not everyone liked demon furnaces. The value of such a beauty was definitely not inferior to any female demons. Looking at the woman on the mountain path, he felt a fire in his heart. He slowly walked towards her. A moment later, the beautiful woman continued to walk. The unconscious young man in blue was hung on a tree. His cultivation had been destroyed. When she was about to reach the foot of the mountain, the woman touched a jade bracelet on her hand. Several figures appeared out of thin air. If everyone swaggered through the air, it would be too eye-catching. Whether it was the military or the local government, it would not be beneficial to the plan. Limu, Hujio, and the others hid in Phantom Princess's storage space for a while. For this operation, each of them had a flask heaven space. Although the area was not large, the 7 of them combined were not small. It was enough to accommodate everyone in the Wu family's underground palace. Limu had a bigger space, but if he revealed it, his identity would be exposed. So, he could only go back to the Thousand Fox country and let Phantom Princess solve the problem of space herself. Now that he had comprehended the heavenly book of the Fox clan, it was time for him to leave. This time, with Fantasy Princess and the others by his side, Limu would not be able to unleash his full potential. After this mission was over, he would try to find an opportunity to escape. He put away these thoughts and said to Huanji and the others, "Lord Huanji, I'll have to trouble you." Phantom Princess nodded and walked into the forest with Hulu. When they came out, their hair was tied up and they had changed into men's clothes. They looked very handsome and charming. The beauty of the people from Meizong sect was not differentiated by gender. No matter if it was a man dressed as a woman or a woman dressed as a man, they were all stunning beauties. Under Limu's lead, the group came to the Wu family. It looked like an ordinary manor, but there was actually a powerful formation outside. Unless there was a 6th realm cultivator, it would be very difficult to break in from the outside. Limu had changed his appearance. Like Wu Liang, he was also a follower of the Zhejiang Commandery King. He was now lying in the flask heaven space that Phantom Princess gave to Limu. His vital spirit and body were imprisoned. A guard of the Wu family came up and said respectfully, "Welcome, Lord Qin. Master is in seclusion and can't receive you personally. Please don't blame him." Limu said, "I've brought a few friends to play. You can make the arrangements. I won't disturb Brother Wu." The guard said, "Everyone please follow me." He held the token and led them through several checkpoints. They came to an empty space in the backyard. He formed a seal with his hands and his lips trembled. A large hole opened in the ground. It was pitch black inside and they could not see anything. The guard stood at the entrance of the hole and said, "Please go in. Someone will receive you below." Hujio was about to jump down when Phantom Princess suddenly grabbed her collar. Limu was also suspicious. He said in a low voice, "Something's wrong." The entire Wu family was eerily quiet. Limu and the others had not seen anyone since they came in. It was not like this when Limu came last time. The moment Phantom Princess stopped Hujio, the guard of the Wu family was about to retreat. Limu pointed at the back of his neck and sealed his cultivation. Phantom Princess had already sensed that something was wrong. She immediately said, "Retreat." But it was too late. The light of the formation flashed in the sky above the Wu family. A translucent shield instantly solidified. The 7 of them were trapped inside the shield. Outside the shield, a dense crowd of people began to gather. An ambush. We've fallen into a trap. Inside the formation, everyone spoke with an ugly expression. When Hulu and the others came to their senses, they immediately looked at Limu with suspicion and hostility in their eyes. From the beginning, he was the one who provided the information and planned this. If there was a traitor among them, he was the most suspicious. Hu Jiao understood their expressions. She said with a dark face, "What do you mean? Are you suspecting Little Snake?" Hu Lu and Li Mu pulled away and said, "He is indeed the most suspicious. Shouldn't we suspect him?" Hu Jiao said decisively, "It can't be Little Snake. I believe him." While the two demons were arguing, Phantom Princess did not panic. She said in a low voice, "Now is not the time to talk about this. Let's work together to break the formation." Her words were very useful. They all took out their weapons and attacked the formation above them. Only Li Mu did not move. He knew that their attacks were useless. The underground palace of the Wu family was the money tree of the Zhejiang Commandery Prince. He had invested a lot in the protective formation here. Even a sixth realm cultivator would need some time to break this formation. If Phantom Princess brought the cultivators of the Meizong and Mirage sects, they might be able to break it. However, she had gathered them in an emergency and did not have enough manpower. They could not even shake this formation. Phantom Princess formed a seal with her hands. A huge six-tailed fox shadow appeared behind her. She used the fox shadow to unleash her strongest attack. However, it only made the formation shake a little. The formation was still stable. At this moment, Hu Jiao realized that Li Mu did not move. She said angrily, "Why are you still standing there?" Li Mu shook his head and said, "It's useless. I searched the soul of the owner of this place. Even a sixth realm cultivator would need more than 2 hours to break this formation. If we continue like this, we'll just be wasting our magic power." Phantom Princess could unleash a sixth realm attack. However, she only had the power for one attack. It was far from enough to break the formation. She landed and gritted her teeth. There are still spies in the Meizong sect. Outside the array, a young man crossed his arms and looked down at them from above. He said indifferently, "You guys really dared to come?" Hu Lu raised her head and asked coldly, "How did you know?" The young man smiled and said, "We're going to die. What's the use of knowing this?" Hu Lu said coldly, "The Lord of Heaven's daughter is here. If you dare to hurt her, the Lord of Heaven will not let you go." The young man sneered and said, "The Lord of Heaven's illusion is so scary. Then let him come. Let's see who will not let who go." The Duke of Zhejiang obviously knew Phantom Princess's identity. Li Mu ruled out the possibility that they discovered something was wrong and set up an ambush in advance. The imperial court did have spies in the Meizong sect. However, they did not have access to such confidential information. The only possibility was that the higher-ups of the Meizong sect leaked the information to the Duke of Zhejiang. Did the Duke of Zhejiang also have spies in the higher-ups of the Meizong sect? Right now, spies were not the most important thing. The Duke of Zhejiang gave the order. Outside the formation, countless cultivators activated the formation at the same time. A sky full of spells attacked them. Although there were no sixth realm cultivators outside the formation, they were all fourth realm and fifth realm cultivators. There were too many of them. Their combined attacks were very close to sixth realm attacks. Even Dongshan cultivators would be in a difficult situation if they were trapped in the formation. Phantom Princess threw out an ancient turtle shell. The turtle shell emitted a faint fluorescent light and covered them. However, the light on the turtle shell was slowly dimming under the intensive attacks. Hu Lu said with a trembling voice, "Lord Phantom Princess, this Dharma treasure will not last long." As the turtle shell dimmed, Phantom Princess's face gradually turned pale. She still had a few powerful Dharma treasures. However, they could only last for a while. The attacks outside the formation would eventually land on them. Everyone would not be able to escape the fate of being destroyed in body and soul. At this moment, no one doubted Li Mu. It was obvious that the people outside wanted to kill them all, not leaving a single one alive. Which spy would die with them? Hu Jiao sat on the ground. She gritted her teeth and said, "If we can escape, I will definitely catch that damned spy. I will tear him into pieces and burn his bones to ashes." Hu Lu sat beside her dejectedly. She said, "Let's talk about it after we escape. What's the use of saying this now? I'm still a virgin. I haven't even tasted a man." Phantom Princess was silent. After the undercover incident last time, she had been more careful. Not many people knew about this, but even so, they had still been ambushed. The light on the turtle shell was very dim. Hu Jiao looked up. After a moment of silence, she slowly stood up and said, "If the 6 of us explode our demon souls and primordial spirits, even if we can't break the formation, we can weaken it to the greatest extent. It will be enough for Lord Phantom Princess to break the formation. As long as the formation is broken, Lord Phantom Princess will have hope of escaping." The demons did not speak. Their faces were filled with determination. Phantom Princess said firmly, "No." This was the only time Jianghu did not go along with Phantom Princess. She said firmly, "Lord Phantom Princess, we have no other choice. Only if you escape can you avenge us and save the people here. We still have a choice." A voice suddenly sounded. Everyone's eyes immediately looked behind Phantom Princess. Limu slowly said, "I just searched through the memories of the owner of this place and found that this formation has a weak point. If Lord Illusion Princess uses the same level of attack as before to attack the weak point, there might be a chance of breaking the formation." Hulu shook her head and said, "Even if we break the formation, there are so many strong enemies outside. We can't escape." Limu continued, "I learned a skill from the Heavenly Book. Later, other than Lord Phantom Princess, all of you transfer your mana to me. I will use your mana to cast this skill. It should be able to stop them for a while. During this time, Lord Phantom Princess will be able to escape with you." Jianghu said in surprise, "Really?" Limu nodded and said, "It's all thanks to Lord Phantom Princess that I learned the Heavenly Book 2 days ago. Otherwise, all of us would have died here today." Phantom Princess looked into Limu's eyes and asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" Limu said embarrassedly, "I wanted to tell Lord Phantom Princess at the right time to give Lord Phantom Princess a surprise. I didn't expect to use it so soon." Jianghu seemed to have thought of something and asked, "Then what about you?" Limu patted her shoulder and said, "Don't worry. I also learned a blood escape skill from the Heavenly Book. This skill can increase my speed greatly. Those below the 6th level won't be able to catch up with me. After buying enough time for all of you, I will use the blood escape skill to escape. Although after using it, my vitality will be greatly damaged and my cultivation will regress, but at this critical moment I can't care so much." Hulu looked at Limu and seemed to have understood something. Phantom Princess felt that something was wrong. She wanted to ask more, but Hulu looked at the dim turtle shell and said, "Lord Phantom Princess, there's no time. Prepare to attack the weak point of this formation. We will transfer our spiritual power to him. Outside the formation." The Duke of Jianghu looked at the turtle shell that was about to disappear and urged, "Hurry up, this thing can't hold on for much longer." The cultivators were about to increase their attacks when a strong wave of spiritual power came from under the turtle shell. A long whip of spiritual power pierced through the turtle shell and hit a certain part of the formation. The Duke of Jianghu smiled in disdain. "A trapped beast attack?" Then he opened his eyes slightly. He seemed to have seen something wrong. He saw a small shadow of a bell. Although it was just a flash, he did see it. Boom. After being hit by the long whip, the formation that had always been very stable let out a deafening boom. A gap actually appeared. Although the gap was quickly mended, there was still a ray of white light that flew out of the formation and into the distance. The Duke of Jianghu's expression changed and he immediately said, "Chase after it." In fact, there was no need for him to give the order. The moment the white light flew out, the cultivators outside the formation had already chased after it. Bang. The cultivator who was flying at the front suddenly flew back. A figure suddenly appeared in front of him. That figure was only at the 4th level at first, but his aura began to climb at this moment. It climbed to the early stage, the middle stage, the late stage until it reached the peak of the 4th level. At some point it reached the 5th level. However, this was not the end. In just a few breaths, his aura climbed to the peak of the 5th level. This scene scared all the cultivators present. They did not dare to act rashly. If this person took one more step, he would reach the 6th level and enter the ranks of the strongest cultivators on the continent. At that time, who would be able to stop him? Fortunately, his aura did not change after reaching the peak of the 5th level. Limu quietly put away the Dao Bell and secretly adjusted the position of the Fulu on his arm. The flaw in the formation was fake. In fact, when Phantom Princess attacked with her full strength, he made the Dao Bell become undetectable and lightly hit it. The Dao spell was also fake. The reason his aura climbed was because he used the Fulu. The blood escape was also fake. It was just an excuse he used to deceive Phantom Princess. Although he didn't expect this undercover incident, it was also an opportunity for him to escape. Seeing that the person's aura no longer climbed, the Duke of Jianghu let out a sigh of relief. He pointed at the Creation Realm cultivators and said, "You guys kill him. The rest of you chase after him." As soon as he finished speaking, a few people rushed in the direction Phantom Princess disappeared. However, in the next moment, a figure blocked their path. He floated in the air and said in a low voice, "Those who cross this place will die." The Duke of Jianghu was extremely angry. He shouted, "Kill him. Kill him now." Countless figures swarmed forward. Behind them, under the night sky, Phantom Princess ignored the overdraft of her dermic powers and pushed her speed to the limit. Even though they were so far away, she could still feel the rapidly rising aura behind her. It seemed that the little snake did not lie to her. He really did comprehend a powerful Dao spell from the heavenly book. She continued to squeeze out her dermic powers and increased her speed. Wuxia and the others were already in the sky flask. She had to use her fastest speed to fly into the 100,000 mountains. Only then would she not let down the opportunity the little snake had risked his life to create for them. In the sky above the Wu Manor, Li Mu had killed countless people. He looked back in the direction Phantom Princess had disappeared and said softly, "Lord Phantom Princess, farewell forever." He slowly turned back. Suddenly, a strong white light emitted from his body. In the sky above the Wu Manor, the cultivators were scared out of their wits. "Oh no, he's going to self-destruct. Retreat. Damn it, don't block me." A destructive wave of spiritual power swept out in all directions with that figure as the center. The Wu Manor had been razed to the ground. Everyone quickly scattered, but they were still affected and were sent flying. They all spat out blood, their auras weakened and their divine souls dimmed. The Jianghu commandery prince hid behind a few guards. He waited until the spiritual power wave of the self-destruction dissipated before he walked out. He looked up and saw that the white figure had already disappeared. He coughed a few times. His face was pale as he said angrily, "That lunatic." 100,000 mountains. In the Yao nation, Phantom Princess landed on a mountain. Her body swayed and she almost fell down. She held onto a tree and let Wuxia and the others out. Then she threw a few spiritual jades to them and sat down cross-legged. She said, "Those people won't dare to chase us anymore. You guys hurry up and recover your dermic powers. We'll wait here for the little snake to come back." Wuxia looked like she had survived a disaster. She laughed and said, "I knew that the little snake is more reliable at times like this. Lord Phantom Princess, when he comes back you must reward him." Hulu's expression was complicated. After a long time she raised her head and said, "I'm afraid that the little snake won't be able to come back." Wuxia glared at her and said unhappily, "Sister Lu, what are you saying? The little snake just saved all of us. How can you curse him like this?" "Hurry up and spit on him," Hulu said in a low voice. "Don't you understand? There's no blood escape. He can only use our dermic powers to temporarily increase his cultivation and self-destruct his divine soul to buy time for Lord Phantom Princess. The little snake won't be able to come back." Wuxia was stunned for a moment. Then she said angrily, "What are you talking about? That's impossible." As soon as she said that, a strong wave of spiritual power came from far away. Even if they were standing dozens of miles away, they could still faintly feel it. Plop. Wuxia's body went soft and she knelt on the ground. Crack. The spiritual jade in Phantom Princess's hand was crushed by her. Blood slowly flowed through the gaps between her fingers. Chapter 452. Zhejiang County, Qingjiang County. In a pharmacy in the county. The doctor stroked his long beard and withdrew his hand from a man's pulse. He asked, "When did this symptom appear?" The man said with a bitter face, Last night I was making love with my wife. Suddenly there was a loud noise outside. It shook my house so much that it almost collapsed. At that time I was moaning. Then this morning I couldn't get up." The doctor nodded and comforted him. "It's okay. It's normal to have such symptoms when you're frightened. I'll give you a prescription. You'll be fine after taking it for a few days." The man said gratefully, "Thank you, doctor." "Thank you. It's my pleasure." The doctor raised his pen and said, "Just follow this prescription to get the medicine. 100-year-old ginseng, 1 deer antler, a pair of bear paws, and half a kilogram of caterpillar fungus. Take it for a few days and you'll be fine." After the man got the medicine and left, the shopkeeper of the pharmacy counted the silver and said, "I don't know what happened last night. I was sleeping soundly when there was a loud noise outside. I was so scared that I fell under the bed. I thought the earth dragon had turned over, but it just shook." On the street the people were also discussing this matter. The loud noise last night had awakened all the people in the city. Even now, most of the people did not know what had happened. It was not until the Qingjiang County government posted a notice to calm the people that the people knew the ins and outs of the matter. The notice said that last night, a few demons attacked the Wu family estate outside the city and engaged in a great battle with the cultivators of the Wu family. The battle was extremely intense, razing the entire Wu family estate to the ground. The loud sound came from the battle. Too scary. A battle actually caused such a big commotion. Fortunately, the battle didn't happen in the county. Otherwise we would also be affected. When will the imperial court completely destroy these damn demons? Chase them back into the mountains and never come out. In the crowd, a cultivator said with lingering fear, "What kind of *T battle is this? A battle of magical powers isn't that powerful. That's equivalent to the self-destruction of someone at the peak of the creation realm. Yesterday I was just watching from afar, but I was injured by the shockwaves. If I had been any closer I might have died." The person beside him was pale and his aura was very weak. He gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it, I need at least half a year to recover from the injuries I suffered this time. That lunatic, His Royal Highness was angered by him last night." The cultivator said, "If it wasn't for that lunatic, His Royal Highness would have caught those demons." If the daughter of the Lord of Illusions was handed over to the imperial court, it would be a great merit. Little Snake. In the crowd, a handsome man's face was covered in tears. When tears fell from his cheeks, they dissipated into the void. Beside him, a beautiful woman also shed tears. She took a deep breath and said in a hoarse voice, "Let's go. Thousand Fox City." After Phantom Princess, Wuxia and the others came back, they searched the entire Meizong sect, but they still didn't find any clues about the spy. That person was like a poisonous snake that chose people to devour. He hid in the dark and no one knew when he would bite them again. Phantom Princess looked at Wuxia and Hulu and said, "From now on, the only people I can trust are you." Wuxia walked into a small courtyard. When she came out, she was holding several neatly folded clothes in her arms. She looked sad and said, "I want to build a tomb for Little Snake." Outside Thousand Fox City, a small mound was piled up on a beautiful hillside. Phantom Princess and Hulu stood in front of the mound silently. Wuxia put her hand on the tombstone in front of the mound and said seriously, "Little Snake, I will avenge you." Zhejiang Commandery Prince's Mansion. "Your Royal Highness, Lord Wu, Lord Mu, Mr. May's life talismans are all broken. Lord Chen's is also broken. It's the Fox Demon's revenge." Hearing the report, the Duke of Zhejiang's face became gloomier and gloomier. Foxes were indeed vengeful. Not long after they escaped, they launched a crazy revenge. He thought for a moment and said in a deep voice, "They asked for it. Inform the county government that demons from the demon nation want to kill me." The servant said, "Those demons are very powerful. I'm afraid the county government can't deal with them." The Duke of Zhejiang snorted and said, "They can't deal with them, but someone can." In the Demon Emperor's cave, Li Mu lay on the grass with his hands behind his head. He held a blade of grass in his mouth and looked up at the sky. He had completed his mission to sneak into Thousand Fox Nation, and the show was over. Although he wasn't so obsessed that he couldn't get out, after lying here for 2 days, the figures of Phantom Princess, Wuxia and the people from Meizong sect often appeared in his mind. Sure enough, he couldn't act for too long. Otherwise it would be easy to distinguish between the scenes and the scenes. Li Mu stretched out his hand. There was a spiritual jade in his palm. In the center of the spiritual jade, there was a red mark in the shape of a blood drop. He left the spiritual jade in the Demon Emperor's space and disappeared on the spot. Zhejiang County, somewhere in Xinjiang County. Li Mu's figure appeared out of thin air. He took out the spiritual conch and injected his magic power. The Empress' angry voice came from the spiritual conch. "Li Mu, if you don't let me speak this time, I'll teach you a lesson when you come back." Li Mu coughed and said, "Your Majesty, you can speak as much as you want this time. You can speak as long as you want." Opposite the spiritual conch, Zhou was stunned. Then he said, "Forget it. Your safety is more important. If you have something to say, say it quickly. If it takes too long, they might get suspicious." Li Mu said, "Your Majesty, don't worry. I've completed my mission. I can return to the divine capital in a few days." "You can return?" "Yes, I've already left Thousand Fox Nation." "Then don't leave in a few days. Leave now. Immediately, immediately. I want to see you before tomorrow. Do you know how I've been through these months? I'm so annoyed by the reports every day." Li Mu listened to the Empress' complaints and said helplessly, "Your Majesty, I still have some things to do in Zhejiang County. After I'm done, I'll return as soon as possible." Zhou asked, "What's going on in Zhejiang County?" Li Mu said, "Zhejiang County King Xiaoheng has a large number of retainers in his residence. He also recruited a large number of cultivators through some shady means. He allowed his subordinates to do harm in Zhejiang County. I'll return after I'm done with him." Zhou was a bit disappointed. He could only ask, "Can you do it alone?" Li Mu said, I'm afraid not. I'll need the help of the office of worship. Zhou Yi asked, is one high priest and 10 peak 5th realm high priests enough? Li Mu thought for a moment and said, just the high priest is enough. There's no need for so many people. Zhou Yi covered the conch and looked at Mr. Mei beside him. He said, go and inform the office of worship. Ask the 2 high priests to go to Jianghu County together. After they're done, bring Li Mu back to me. Mr. Mei soon arrived at the office of worship. He said to the 2 high priests, Her Majesty has decreed that the 2 high priests should go to Jianghu County to help Lord Li deal with the Jianghu County king. Then bring him back. If he doesn't come back, tie him up and bring him back. The 2 high priests cupped their hands together. Yes, Your Majesty. In Jianghu Palace, Zhou Yi looked at the conch and said, I heard that you massaged a fox's legs and shoulders in the Yao Kingdom. You even washed her feet? As expected, this matter still reached the Empress' ears. His great image in the Empress' mind had probably collapsed. Li Mu sighed and said, Your Majesty, please listen to my explanation. 2 hours later, Li Mu put down the conch. It had been a long time since he made conch with the Empress like this. In the past 2 hours, he had finished reporting his work to the Empress in advance. He didn't know why the Empress was so curious about these things. She asked him to tell her everything one by one. If it weren't for the officials who asked to see her, she might have asked Li Mu to talk for 2 more hours. Li Mu returned to Jianghu County and prepared to wait for the 2 high priests. With their speed, they would be here by this time tomorrow. He had just turned a corner when he heard an incredulous voice from behind him. Little snake. Li Mu turned around subconsciously. When he saw Hu Jio's face, he knew he was in trouble. Hu Jio ran over excitedly and grabbed Li Mu's arm. She said in surprise, Little snake, it's really you. You didn't die. Hu Jio wasn't the only one who was excited. Phantom Princess also had an indescribable look of surprise on her face. Only Hu Lu looked at him with surprise and doubt. Li Mu waved his hand to get rid of Hu Jio. Hu Jio was stunned and asked, Little snake, what's wrong with you? Don't you recognize me? Phantom Princess seemed to realize something. She looked at Li Mu and the light in her eyes quickly dimmed. At such a close distance, she didn't feel the existence of that drop of essence blood. The person in front of her wasn't Little Snake. Li Mu looked at Phantom Princess and smiled. Fox, we meet again. Little Snake wouldn't call Lord Phantom Princess that. Hu Jio finally reacted. She took a few steps back and blurted out, You are Li Mu. The real Li Mu. Li Mu looked at Hu Jio and finally looked at Phantom Princess. He said, The great consecrator said that he saw another me in Thousand Fox Country. I didn't believe it at first, but now it seems to be true. Phantom Princess, you are too much. You don't dare to fight with me on the surface, but you humiliate me behind my back. Phantom Princess looked haggard and didn't want to talk about that. She said coldly, What are you doing here? Li Mu glanced at her and said, This is Jianghu County, one of the 36 counties in Great Zhou. I should be the one asking you this question. What are you doing here? Do you want to do something bad again? Seeing this familiar face, Hu Jio was reminded of something sad. She gritted her teeth and said, What right do you have to say that we are going to do bad things? Do monsters have to do bad things? You humans have done more bad things than us. Li Mu was stunned. Then he said, Sorry, that's not what I meant. After all, we have been through life and death together. Don't quarrel as soon as you see me. What are you doing here? Hu Jio wanted to take the opportunity to vent her anger. She didn't expect the human in front of her to be so polite and apologize to her. She was a little confused. Phantom Princess turned her head and said, It's none of your business. Li Mu said, Why are you like this? Is this how you heavenly foxes talk to your benefactor? Phantom Princess said calmly, Our grudges are even. From now on, we don't owe each other anything. Li Mu patted his chest and sighed. Touch your conscience. What grudges do we have? You wanted to kill me in the beginning. Later I saved you and let bygones be bygones. Now you say that our grudges are even. Phantom Princess took a deep breath and asked, Then what do you want? Li Mu smiled and said, Tell me the cultivation method of the five-tailed spirit fox. From now on, our grudges are even. We don't owe each other anything. Phantom Princess's heart skipped a beat. Although the Fox clan did not impart their cultivation techniques to outsiders, it was not absolute. Using a portion of their cultivation techniques in exchange for Li Mu's acknowledgement of ending their karma was a very good deal for her. She looked at Li Mu and reached out her hand. It's a deal. Pah. Li Mu high-fived her and said, It's a deal. Phantom Princess said, Come closer. Li Mu leaned over and Phantom Princess whispered a few words in his ear. Li Mu naturally knew the cultivation method of the five-tailed spirit fox. He wanted to use this chance to eliminate Phantom Princess's inner demons and karma. This was what the little snake owed her. Although Phantom Princess hated him, she was sincere. The cultivation method she talked about was exactly the same as what Li Mu had comprehended from the Heavenly Book. However, he still looked at Phantom Princess suspiciously and asked, "You didn't just make it up to trick me, right?" Phantom Princess said coldly, "I swear on the Heavenly Fox. If I lie, let me die from the thunder tribulation." After that, she didn't look at Li Mu anymore. She said to Hu Lu and Hu Jiao, "Let's go." The local government had already noticed them. They also saw the military in the county city. If they continued to move, they might fall into the hands of the Great Zhou military. No matter how unwilling they were, they could only return to Thousand Fox Country and plan for the long term. Wait. They had just taken 2 steps when Li Mu's voice came from behind them again. Phantom Princess turned around and frowned. "What else do you want?" Li Mu looked at Phantom Princess and said, "I came to Jianghu County under the orders of my Empress to investigate the second-rank king of Jianghu. Someone reported that the second-rank king of Jianghu allowed his subordinates to do some illegal things. However, I'm not familiar with this place. I know that the Meizong sect is more familiar with this place. How about this, you tell me some more clues about this case?" Hu Jiao and Hu Lu looked at each other and saw joy in each other's eyes. Li Mu didn't keep his word. He just said that the grudge was written off and now he mentioned it again. However, they were worried about how to avenge the little snake and how to save their compatriots imprisoned by the second-rank king of Jianghu. They could use this person. Phantom Princess's eyes flashed. Then she said, "I can help you, but you have to promise me one thing." Li Mu asked, "What is it?" Phantom Princess said, "There are many demons imprisoned by the second-rank king of Jianghu. If you punish the queen of Jianghu, I will take these demons away." Li Mu smiled and said, "As long as you are willing to help me, that's easy." Chapter 453. Xinjiang County. In a pharmacy in the county. The doctor stroked his long beard and withdrew his hand from a man's pulse. He asked, "When did these symptoms appear?" The man said with a bitter face, Last night I was making love with my wife. Suddenly there was a loud noise outside. It shook my house so much that it almost collapsed. At that time I made love. Then this morning I couldn't get up." The doctor nodded and then comforted him. "It's okay. It's normal to have such symptoms when you're frightened. I'll give you a prescription. You'll be fine after taking it for a few days." The man said gratefully, "Thank you, doctor." "Thank you. It's my pleasure." The doctor raised his pen and said, "Just follow this prescription to get the medicine. 100-year-old ginseng, 1 deer antler, a pair of bear paws and a kilogram of caterpillar fungus. Take it for a few days and you'll be fine." After the man got the medicine and left, the shopkeeper of the pharmacy counted the silver and said, "I don't know what happened last night. I was sleeping soundly when there was a loud noise outside. I was so scared that I fell under the bed. I thought the earth dragon had turned over, but it was just a tremor." On the streets, the people were also discussing this matter. The loud noise last night had awakened all the people in the city. Even now, most of the people did not know what had happened. It was not until the Xinjiang County government posted a notice to calm the people that the people knew the ins and outs of the matter. The notice said that last night, a few demons attacked the Wu family estate outside the city and engaged in a great battle with the cultivators of the Wu family. The battle was extremely intense, razing the entire Wu family estate to the ground. The loud sound came from the battle. Too scary. A battle actually caused such a big commotion. Fortunately, the battle did not happen in the county. Otherwise we would also be in trouble. When will the imperial court completely destroy these damn demons? Chase them back into the mountains and never come out. In the crowd, a cultivator said with lingering fear, "What kind of **T battle is this? A battle of magical powers isn't that powerful. That's equivalent to the self-destruction of someone at the peak of the creation realm. Yesterday I was just watching from afar, but I was injured by the shockwaves. If I had been any closer, I might have died." The person beside him was pale and his aura was very weak. He gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it, I need at least half a year to recover from the injuries I suffered this time. That lunatic, His Royal Highness was angered by him last night." The cultivator said, "If it wasn't for that lunatic, His Royal Highness would have caught those demons." If the daughter of the Lord of Illusions was handed over to the imperial court, it would be a great merit. Little snake, In the crowd, a handsome man's face was covered in tears. When tears fell from his cheeks, they dissipated into the void. Beside him, a beautiful woman also shed tears. She took a deep breath and said in a hoarse voice, "Let's go. Thousand Fox City." After Phantom Princess, Wuxia, and the others returned, they searched the entire Meizong sect, but they still didn't find any clues about the spy. That person was like a poisonous snake that chose to devour people. He hid in the dark, and they didn't know when he would bite them again. Phantom Princess looked at Wuxia and Hulu and said, "From now on, you're the only people I can trust." Wuxia walked into a small courtyard. When he came out, he was holding several neatly folded clothes in his arms. He looked sad and said, "I want to build a tomb for Little Snake." Outside Thousand Fox City, a small mound was piled up on a beautiful hillside. Phantom Princess and Hulu stood in front of the mound silently. Wuxia put his hand on the tombstone in front of the mound and said seriously, "Little Snake, I'll definitely avenge you." Zhejiang Commandery Prince's Mansion. Your Royal Highness, Lord Wu, Lord Mu, Mr. May's life talisman is broken. Lord Chen's is also broken. It's the Fox Demon's revenge. Hearing the report, the Duke of Zhejiang's face became gloomier and gloomier. Foxes were indeed vengeful. Not long after they escaped, they launched a crazy revenge. He thought for a moment and said in a low voice, "They asked for it. Inform the county government that a demon from the demon nation wants to kill me." The servant said, "Those demons are very powerful. I'm afraid the county government can't deal with them." The Duke of Zhejiang snorted and said, "They can't deal with them, but someone can." Demon King's Cave. Li Mu lay on the grass with his hands behind his head. He held a blade of grass in his mouth and looked up at the sky. He had completed his mission to sneak into Thousand Fox Nation, and the show was over. Although he wasn't so obsessed that he couldn't get out, after lying here for 2 days, the figures of Phantom Princess, Wuxia, and the people of Meizong sect often appeared in his mind. Sure enough, he couldn't act for too long. Otherwise, it would be easy to distinguish between the inside and outside of the show. Li Mu stretched out his hand. There was a spiritual jade in his palm. In the center of the spiritual jade, there was a red mark in the shape of a drop of blood. He left the spiritual jade in the Demon King's space and disappeared on the spot. Zhejiang County, somewhere in Xinjiang County. Li Mu's figure appeared out of thin air. He took out the spiritual conch and injected his magic power. The Empress' angry voice came from the spiritual conch. "Li Mu, if you don't let me speak this time, I'll teach you a lesson when you come back." Li Mu coughed and said, "Your Majesty, you can speak as much as you want this time. You can speak as long as you want." Opposite the spiritual conch, Zhou was stunned. Then he said, "Forget it. Your safety is more important. If you have something to say it quickly. If it takes too long, they might get suspicious." Li Mu said, "Your Majesty, don't worry. I've completed my mission. I can return to the divine capital in a few days." "You can return?" "Yes, I've left Thousand Fox Nation." "Then don't wait. Leave now. Immediately, immediately. I want to see you before tomorrow. Do you know how I've been through these months? I'm so annoyed by reading the reports every day." Li Mu listened to the Empress' complaints and said helplessly, "Your Majesty, I still have some things to do in Zhejiang County. After I'm done, I'll return as soon as possible." Zhou asked, "What's going on in Zhejiang County?" Li Mu said, "Zhejiang County King Xiaoheng has a large number of followers in his residence. He also recruited a large number of cultivators through some shady means. He allowed his subordinates to do harm in Zhejiang County. I'll return after I'm done with him." Zhou was a bit disappointed. He could only ask, "Can you do it alone?" Li Mu said, "I'm afraid not. I need the help of the Office of Worship." Zhou Qiong asked, "Is 1 high consecrator and 10 peak-level 5th realm consecrators enough?" Li Mu thought for a moment and said, "Just the high priest is enough. There's no need for so many people." Zhou covered the conch and looked at Mr. May beside him. He said, "Go and inform the Office of Worship. Ask the 2 high priests to go to Zhejiang County together. After they're done, bring Li Mu back to me." Mr. May soon arrived at the Office of Worship. He said to the 2 high priests, "Her Majesty has decreed that the 2 high priests should go to Zhejiang County to help Lord Li deal with the Zhejiang County king. Then bring him back. If he doesn't come back, tie him up and bring him back." The 2 high priests cupped their hands at the same time. "Yes, Your Majesty." In Chengel Palace, Zhou looked at the conch and said, "I heard that you massaged a fox's legs and shoulders in the Yao Kingdom. You even washed her feet?" As expected, this matter still reached the ears of the Empress. His great image in the Empress' mind had probably collapsed. Li Mu sighed and said, "Your Majesty, please listen to my explanation." 2 hours later, Li Mu put down the conch. It had been a long time since he made conch with the Empress like this. In the past 2 hours, he had finished reporting his work to the Empress in advance. He didn't know why the Empress was so curious about these things. She asked him to tell her everything one by one. If it weren't for the officials who asked to see her, she might have asked Li Mu to talk for 2 hours. Li Mu returned to Jianghu County and prepared to wait for the 2 high priests. With their speed, they would be here by this time tomorrow. He had just turned a corner when he heard an incredulous voice from behind him. "Little snake." Li Mu turned around subconsciously. When he saw Hu Jio's face, he knew he was in trouble. Hu Jio ran over excitedly and grabbed Li Mu's arm. She said in surprise, "Little snake, it's really you. You didn't die." Hu Jio wasn't the only one who was excited. Phantom Princess also had an indescribable look of surprise on her face. Only Hu Lu looked at him with surprise and doubt. Li Mu waved his hand to shake off Hu Jio. Hu Jio was stunned and asked, "Little snake, what's wrong? Don't you recognize me?" Phantom Princess seemed to realize something. She looked at Li Mu and the light in her eyes quickly dimmed. At such a close distance, she didn't feel the existence of that drop of essence blood. The person in front of her wasn't Little Snake. Li Mu looked at Phantom Princess and smiled. "Fox, we meet again." Little Snake wouldn't call Lord Phantom Princess that. Hu Jio finally reacted. She took a few steps back and blurted out, "You're Li Mu. The real Li Mu." Li Mu looked at Hu Jio and finally looked at Phantom Princess. He said, "The great consecrator said that he saw another me in Thousand Fox Country. I didn't believe it at first, but now it seems to be true. Phantom Princess, you've gone too far. You don't dare to fight with me on the surface, but you humiliate me behind my back." Phantom Princess looked haggard and didn't want to talk about that. She said coldly, "What are you doing here?" Li Mu glanced at her and said, "This is Jianghu County, one of the 36 counties in Great Zhou. I should be the one asking you this question. What are you doing here? Do you want to do something bad again?" Seeing this familiar face, Hu Jio was reminded of something sad. She gritted her teeth and said, "Why do you say we're doing bad things? Do monsters have to do bad things? You humans have done more bad things than us." Li Mu was stunned for a moment. Then he said, "Sorry, that's not what I meant. We've been through life and death together. Don't quarrel as soon as you see me. What are you doing here?" Hu Jio wanted to take the opportunity to vent her anger. She didn't expect the human in front of her to be so polite and apologize to her. She didn't know what to do. Phantom Princess turned her head and said, "It's none of your business." Li Mu said, "Why are you like this? Is this how you heavenly foxes talk to your benefactor?" Phantom Princess said calmly, "Our grudges are even. From now on we don't owe each other anything." Li Mu patted his chest and sighed, "Touch your conscience. What grudges do we have? You wanted to kill me in the beginning. Later I saved you and let bygones be bygones. Now you say that our grudges are even." Phantom Princess took a deep breath and asked, "Then what do you want?" Li Mu smiled and said, "Tell me the cultivation method of the five-tailed fox spirit. From now on, our grudges are even. We don't owe each other anything." Phantom Princess's heart skipped a beat. Although the Fox clan did not impart their cultivation techniques to outsiders, it was not absolute. Using a portion of their cultivation techniques in exchange for Li Mu's acknowledgement of ending their karma was a very good deal for her. She looked at Li Mu and reached out her hand. "It's a deal." Li Mu high-fived her and said, "It's a deal." Phantom Princess said, "Come closer." Li Mu leaned over and Phantom Princess whispered a few words in his ear. Li Mu naturally knew the cultivation method of the five-tailed fox race. He wanted to use this chance to eliminate Phantom Princess's inner demons and karma. This was the little snake's debt to her. Although Phantom Princess hated him, she was sincere. The cultivation method she talked about was exactly the same as what Li Mu had comprehended from the heavenly book. However, he still looked at Phantom Princess suspiciously and asked, "You didn't just make it up to trick me, right?" Phantom Princess said coldly, "I swear on the heavenly fox race. If I lie, let me die from the thunder tribulation." After that, she didn't look at Li Mu anymore. She said to Hu Lu and Hu Jio, "Let's go." The local government had already noticed them. They also saw the military in the county. If they continued to move, they might fall into the hands of the Great Zhou's military. No matter how unwilling they were, they could only return to Thousand Fox Country and plan for the long term. Wait. They had just taken 2 steps when Li Mu's voice came from behind them again. Phantom Princess turned around and frowned. What else do you want? Li Mu looked at Phantom Princess and said, I came to Zhejiang County under the orders of my Empress to investigate the Duke of Zhejiang. Someone reported that the Duke of Zhejiang allowed his subordinates to do some illegal things. However, I'm not familiar with this place. I know that the Meizong sect is more familiar with this place. How about this, you tell me some more clues about this case? Then we won't owe each other anything. Hu Jiao and Hu Lu looked at each other and saw joy in each other's eyes. Li Mu didn't keep his word. He just said that the grudge would be written off. Now he mentioned it again. However, they were still worried about how to avenge the little snake and how to save their compatriots imprisoned by the Duke of Zhejiang. They could use this person. Phantom Princess's eyes flashed. Then she said, I can help you, but you have to promise me one thing. Li Mu asked, what is it? Phantom Princess said, the Duke of Zhejiang has imprisoned many demons. You have dealt with the Queen of Zhejiang. I want to take these demons away. Li Mu smiled and said, as long as you're willing to help me, that's easy. Chapter 454. Duke Manor. The Duke of Zhejiang Xiaoheng was setting up a banquet. He raised his cup to a tall man in golden armor and said, here's a toast to General Lu. The man in golden armor said emotionlessly, drinking is forbidden in the Northern Army. The Duke of Zhejiang smiled and said, this is not the army. The man in golden armor said, the people are not here, but the military rules are. The Duke of Zhejiang said apologetically, I didn't know the rules. General Lu, please don't blame me. Men, bring me my precious tea. Very soon, the servants of the regional king's mansion had finished brewing tea and respectfully served it to the golden-armored man. The golden-armored man took a sip of tea and asked, does the regional king have any enmity with that fox demon? The Duke of Zhejiang shook his head and said, no grudges. That's strange. The man in golden armor looked at him and said, if you don't have any grudges, why do they have to find you? The fox demons value grudges very much. If you don't have any grudges with them, how can there be consequences? The Commandery Prince of Zhejiang narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, General Lu, you are wrong. The demonic beasts are our enemies. They want to kill me. Should General Lu ask them why? Let's catch the demonic beasts that are disturbing our county and bring peace back to this place. Isn't that what the government and the Northern Army should do? The man in golden armor blew on the tea and didn't refute the Duke of Zhejiang. The second-rank Prince of Zhejiang was right. His duty was to guard the bordering counties, stop the demons from causing trouble, and protect the people of the Zhejiang county. No matter what the second-rank Prince of Zhejiang did, no matter what those demons were hiding, he had to catch those demons and protect the second-rank Prince of Zhejiang. After all, he was the general of the Great Zhou. After a short period of silence, the Duke of Zhejiang said in a regretful tone, those 3 fox demons have disappeared for 2 days. If I knew earlier, I wouldn't have ordered the county government to hunt them down. I don't know where they are hiding. If they ran back to the Demon Kingdom, wouldn't General Lu's trip be in vain? The man in golden armor put down his cup and said, it's not in vain. They're here. As soon as he said that, 2 loud noises came from outside. What's that sound? The second-rank Prince of Zhejiang stood up and frowned. Just as he was about to ask his servant, another deep voice resounded through the entire Zhejiang Commandery Prince's mansion. Xiaoheng, Commandery Prince of Zhejiang, get out here. The voice rolled over. The Duke of Zhejiang was stunned for a moment, and then extreme anger appeared on his face. In Zhejiang County, there was actually someone who dared to call him by his name and tell him to get out of the county king's mansion? His face was gloomy as he strode outside. At the same time, at the entrance of the county king's manor, Li Mu looked at the array that enveloped the entire county king's manor after he destroyed the main door. He turned to look at the 2 head reverends. Without any exchange of words, one of the high consecrators raised his palm and pressed it down. Pop, after a sound similar to a bubble bursting, the entire formation silently disappeared. When Li Mu walked into the county king's manor, there were already several figures rushing toward him. They were all the county king's retainers. Stop. Who are you? How dare you barge into the regional prince's mansion? You're courting death. The 3 people at the front were all at the 5th level of cultivation. Facing the group of people who barged into the county king's manor, they did not hesitate to attack. 3 invisible supernatural power attacks came straight at them. A majestic aura gushed out of Li Mu's body and swept forward. The 3 people's attacks disappeared into thin air, and they were forced back a few steps. Behind Li Mu, Hu Jiu could not help but exclaim, "So powerful." Huan Ji's gaze was complicated. She rarely had a match among her peers until she met Li Mu, the man who would crush her confidence every time. He made her understand that there was always someone better than her. The three Zhejiang commandery princes' manor powerhouses looked at the young man in front of them with fearful eyes. This person's strength was beyond their imagination. Then they saw a few familiar figures behind the young man, and they could not help but exclaim in surprise. "Lord County Governor. The County Governor and County Lieutenant are also here." "Who is he? What is he doing here?" The County King's Manor's retainers were often active in Zhejiang County, so they naturally knew the officers in charge of the county yamen. These people represented the imperial court. Ever since the divine capital's Shao royal family suffered great losses, even the county king was much more polite to them than before. But now they were standing respectfully behind this young man. It seemed like they did not come with good intentions. The three of them were fearful and did not dare to do anything for a while. At that moment, Zhejiang Commandery Prince Xiaoheng had already walked out. "Who are you? How dare you be so presumptuous here?" Xiaoheng walked out with a gloomy face. His voice was heard before he even arrived. However, when he saw the figure at the door, his expression changed drastically. Although it was his first time seeing Li Mu, the divine capital's imperial family had sent him a portrait long ago. It said that this person was the empress' favorite official and had great power in the imperial court. Both the new and old parties had been suppressed by him to the extreme. His cousin, the county governor of Nanyang, had died at the hands of Li Mu. It was because of this person that the old party had lost most of their control over the imperial court in a year. The imperial family warned him that if he met this person, he should avoid him if possible. If he could not avoid him, he should try his best not to provoke him. Xiaoheng did not take this to heart. After all, he was far away in Zhejiang County, which was thousands of miles away from the divine capital. No matter how long Li Mu's hands were, they could not reach him. He did not expect this person to come to his residence today. Although he was furious, Xiaoheng still put on a warm smile on his face. He said, "I've heard a lot about Lord Li. I've wanted to make friends with you for a long time, but I never had the chance." Seeing that the county governor of Zhejiang was taking the initiative to be friendly, Hu Jiu and Huan Ji's expressions changed slightly. If Li Mu sided with the county governor of Zhejiang now, they would have nowhere to run. If Li Mu was in cahoots with the county governor of Zhejiang and this was actually a trap for them. At this moment, Phantom Princess's mind was in a mess. She should not have trusted Li Mu so easily. She should not have put herself in danger. She should not have, until Li Mu snorted and said to the county governor of Zhejiang, "Don't try to get close to me. Do I know you? Xiaoheng, you've committed a crime. I'm here today on the orders of the imperial court to bring you to justice." Xiaoheng's eyelids twitched, but he still pretended to be calm. He said, "Lord Li, I'm afraid you're mistaken. I've always been a law-abiding person. Why would the imperial court want to arrest me?" Li Mu said indifferently, "You're heartless. You ordered your retainers to kidnap women for your sexual pleasure. How many innocent women have been harmed? Even if you're a noble, I'll still get rid of this evil for the people." Xiaoheng could already tell that Li Mu did not come with good intentions. Today's matter would not be settled peacefully. His expression changed drastically. He pointed at Phantom Princess and the other two behind Li Mu and said loudly, "Do you see that? The three demons behind him are the three demons wanted by the imperial court. This person is in cahoots with the demons. County governor of Zhejiang, you're helping the demons. Why aren't you taking him down?" The county governor of Zhejiang was unmoved. They had already verified Li Mu's identity. The two elders beside him were also the most powerful cultivators of the imperial court. Who would believe that the imperial court did not order the two high priests to accompany him? Even if it was not, he had two sixth realm cultivators with him. Who would dare to go against him? It did not matter if he was sent by the imperial court or not. The result was the same. The local government could not get involved and they could not afford to. Seeing that the county governor of Zhejiang and the others did not move, the county governor of Zhejiang ordered his retainers, "Why aren't you killing this traitor who colluded with the demons?" The retainers of the county governor's residence received the order. Some started to form hand seals while others activated their Dharma treasures. Li Mu raised his hand. A golden light flew out from his hand and turned into a golden rope. It quickly passed through the crowd of retainers. They felt their waists tighten. Then the golden rope tied them together. Seeing this, the county governor of Zhejiang's face paled. Without hesitation, he ran to the main hall behind him and shouted, "General Lu, save me!" The man in golden armor suddenly appeared beside him. The county governor of Zhejiang finally saw his savior. He hid behind the man in golden armor and said, "General Lu, save me. This group of traitors wants to rebel against their superiors." Looking at the man in golden armor, Li Mu did not make a move. Li Mu could not see through this person's cultivation at all. This meant that this person's cultivation had surpassed the fifth realm. Judging from his clothes, he should be a powerful cultivator in the army. Other than the Imperial Guards, the Great Zhou's borders near the Ghost Realm, the Yao Nation, and the southern kingdoms were all heavily guarded. They were in charge of monitoring foreign enemies and protecting the local people. Li Mu took out his waist token and showed it to the man in golden armor. He said, "Li Mu, a member of the Imperial Secretariat, the deputy commander of the Empress Bamboo Guards, and the commander of the Consecration Department. I have come under the orders of Her Majesty to capture the county governor of Zhejiang, Xiao Han. General, please step aside." The county governor of Zhejiang shouted, "General Lu, don't listen to him. Look at the three demons beside him. He colluded with demons and brought chaos to this place. His crime is punishable by death." The man in golden armor pondered for a moment. He looked at Li Mu and asked, "Do you have an imperial edict?" Li Mu said, "No, this is an imperial edict from Her Majesty." The man in golden armor said, "He is a noble. Without an imperial edict, I cannot let you take him away. Lord Li, you can go back to the fairy's capital and ask for an imperial edict. I only accept imperial edicts." Li Mu did not make things difficult for the man in golden armor. From the process, what he did was correct. If a person could take a county governor away with just a few words, it meant that there was a loophole in the laws of the Great Zhou. However, he was too lazy to go back to the fairy's capital. He took out the spirit conch and whispered a few words to it. Then, he handed it to the general in golden armor and said, "General, since you don't believe me, I will let Her Majesty talk to you personally." The general in golden armor took the spirit conch and put it to his ear. Hearing the voice from the spirit conch, he was stunned for a moment. Then, his expression immediately became serious. He said solemnly, Yes, okay. I will help Lord Li deal with this matter. I will take my leave." He slowly took the spirit conch from his ear and handed it to Li Mu with both hands. He said, "Lord Li, take care of this treasure. Her Majesty has ordered me to help you deal with the case of the county governor of Zhejiang." The county governor of Zhejiang panicked when his only reinforcements betrayed him. He grabbed the general in golden armor's arm and said in a trembling voice, "It's fake. It's all fake. General Lu, please don't believe me. Please don't believe me." Even though they were far apart, the general in golden armor could feel how powerful the person on the other side of the spirit conch was. The general in golden armor slowly backed away and said, "If you are innocent, you can report this to Lord Li. I believe that the imperial court will give you justice. You can rest assured that even if Lord Li does not have enough evidence, I will protect you." Rest assured? Rest assured my ass. The county governor of Zhejiang was in despair. He knew what he had done. If this happened a year ago, he would not be afraid. Even if the matter was exposed, there were countless people in the fairy's capital who would protect him. However, it was different now. The county governor of Nanyang, his cousin, had committed far fewer crimes than him. In the end, he was beheaded and his body and soul were destroyed. Once the matter of the county governor's mansion was exposed, his life would be over. The county governor of Zhejiang did not hesitate to crush a jade talisman in his hand. His body instantly disappeared from the spot. At the same time, the space outside the county governor's mansion was distorted. He staggered and fell out. He took out a flying boat and was about to escape when he suddenly noticed that the old man who had been standing behind Li Mu in the county governor's mansion was standing at the bow of the boat. He looked at the county governor with a smile and asked, "Where are you going?" In his panic, the county governor of Zhejiang did not even care about the flying boat. He crushed another jade talisman. The next time he appeared, he was dozens of miles away. However, not far ahead there was a figure waiting for him. It was a man who looked exactly like the old man. He looked at the county governor of Zhejiang indifferently and said, "Don't waste your energy. If I let you escape today, how can I stay in the imperial court in the future?" The county governor of Zhejiang tried to escape, but he was caught by the two great reverends. This time, even the general in golden armor did not bother to pay attention to him. The county governor of Zhejiang refused to admit to his crimes. Due to his status, Li Mu could not take any forceful measures against him before the evidence was conclusive. However, it was different for his retainers. The two great reverends had already gone to arrest him. The results would be out very soon. In this period of time, Li Mu and the general in golden armor had chatted for a while, and they had become familiar with each other. He also learned that this was one of the four great generals of the Great Zhou's northern army. He came from White Deer Academy. Apart from the imperial army, the Great Zhou also had the four armies of the north, south, east, and west. Of these, the northern army was the strongest. The four great generals that guarded this place were all sixth-level cultivators. This was because compared to the three armies, the county governor of Zhejiang guarded by the northern army was more dangerous. The Yao kingdom had always been eyeing the Great Zhou covetously. The threat it posed was even greater than that of the Ghost Realm and the southern kingdoms. The general in golden armor smiled and said, "My elder brother once said that this year's martial scholar was skilled in martial arts. At the same level of cultivation, even the bravest and most skilled soldier of the northern army might not be able to defeat you. Seeing you today, I know that his words were not exaggerated." Li Mu asked, "Who is your esteemed elder brother?" The general in golden armor said, "My elder brother was the assistant minister of the Ministry of War. A family with two fierce generals, and the assistant minister of the Ministry of War had even taught him how to use telekinesis to gather force." Li Mu immediately felt deep veneration. He cupped his hands and said, my apologies. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Li Mu thought of something and asked, "I have a matter that I would like to ask General Lu about." The general in golden armor smiled and said, "Lord Li, there is no harm in asking." Li Mu asked, "The former assistant minister of the Ministry of Justice, Zhou Zhong, was once sentenced to exile because of a case. What is his current situation?" The general in golden armor shook his head and said, "He was once sent to the northern army but not long after, he disappeared." Li Mu said, "Disappeared?" The general in golden armor nodded and said, "He is very strong. In just 2 months he made a lot of military contributions. I originally wanted to promote him to deputy general, but 3 months ago, after he destroyed a small Yao kingdom by himself, he completely disappeared and has not been seen since." Li Mu was not worried about Zhou Zhong's disappearance. Until now he still did not know how much strength Zhou Zhong had hidden. A person like him was strong and could endure. Everything he did was probably calculated by him, so there was no need for others to worry about him. Li Mu and General Lu did not chat for long before the two great reverends came back. Huan Ji and Hu Jiu were very familiar with the Zhejiang commandery prince and his subordinates. They were the ones who suggested who to arrest first and who to arrest later. Of the 10 great heretical cultivation masters, 4 were already dead. Of the remaining 6, none of them managed to escape. Under the methods of the two great reverends, they confessed to their crimes. The Zhejiang commandery prince was the instigator. According to the laws of the Great Zhou, his head should be chopped off 100 times. The general in golden armor said, "I did not expect such a thing to happen in Zhejiang commandery." Huan Ji said coldly, "You all say that we Yao clan are causing trouble for the people of Zhejiang commandery, but the truth is that we Yao clan are being persecuted by you humans in Zhejiang commandery. Don't you feel ashamed to say that you want to kill Yao clan?" This time, less than 10% of the victims rescued by the government were humans. More than 90% were Yao clan. The general in golden armor and the officials of Zhejiang commandery could not answer Huan Ji. The laws of the Great Zhou protected the people of the Great Zhou, not the Yao clan. Although this was the truth, they had a balance in their hearts. What maintained this balance was their conscience as living beings. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. Li Mu said, "That's enough. You cannot represent all Yao clan, and the Zhejiang commandery prince cannot represent all humans. Your view is too extreme. There are many Yao clan that harm people. Isn't the imperial court's investigation of the Zhejiang commandery prince a representation of our attitude?" Huan Ji did not argue with Li Mu. She said, "I want to see the Zhejiang commandery prince." The general in golden armor said firmly, "Impossible." Although the Zhejiang commandery prince was a criminal, he was still a noble. Who knew what this fox demon would do after seeing him? Naturally he could not let this demon see him. Li Mu glanced at the golden armored general and said in a low voice, "General Lu, you've seen the miserable state of those demons, haven't you? You also have a wife and a daughter. Think about it. The commandery prince of Zhejiang is a scumbag. He has destroyed so many of those demons. If we don't let them spit and slap them in front of him, we will be too inhumane." The general in golden armor thought of the hellish scene in the human world. A ball of anger rose in his heart. He closed his eyes and said, Lord Li is the imperial envoy. Everything is up to you. Li Mu brought Huanji to the door of the prison. He said softly, I only have one request. Don't kill them. Otherwise I will not be able to explain myself. Huanji nodded and said, I know what to do. She Hu 6 and Hu 9 entered the prison. After 15 minutes they came out. Li Mu asked, What did you find out? Huanji shook her head and said, Nothing. But someone did tell him. Hu Jiao punched the wall heavily. She gritted her teeth and said, It's that person. It's that person who killed Little Snake. Don't let me know who he is. Otherwise I will smash his ass and cut him into pieces. Li Mu patted her shoulder and comforted her. The dead can't come back to life. My condolences. Hu Jiao suddenly looked up at Li Mu and said, Most humans are hypocritical and shameless. They are greedy and cruel. You're a good person. Why don't you join the Meizong sect? With your ability, you will have a high position in the Meizong sect. Li Mu said, I also have a high position in the Great Zhou court. Hu Jiao continued to tempt him, the beauties of the Thousand Fox country are unparalleled. You can marry many. Think about it. Aren't the beauties of the Fox clan beautiful? Aren't the beauties of the Snake clan clingy? There are also the beauties of the Cat clan, the Rabbit clan, the Dog clan. Stop, stop, stop. Li Mu looked at Hu Jiao and asked, Do you think I am that kind of lecherous person? Hu Jiao asked back, Aren't you? Li Mu coughed softly and said, What I mean is, although I am lustful, I don't want everything. I am loyal to the Empress. I am the Empress's man when I am alive, and the Empress's ghost when I die. You should give up. Hu Jiao thought for a moment and said, You don't like other people, but do you not like Master Phantom Princess? Do you dare to say that you don't like Master Phantom Princess? If you don't like Master Phantom Princess, why are you so nice to us? Phantom Princess's face darkened. Hu Jiao. Li Mu thought that he was very careful in front of Phantom Princess and Hu Jiao. He would never let them think that he was Little Snake. But he still neglected a very important point. In order to make up for deceiving Phantom Princess and Hu Jiao, Li Mu had been very nice to them these 2 days. Although he often dissed Phantom Princess, he actually indulged her and took care of her to the extreme. He even made an exception to meet her unreasonable requests. As for the real Li Mu, the moment he met Phantom Concubine he would fight to the death. In comparison, the change in his personality was especially obvious. He had avoided all the small openings but revealed the biggest one. Hu Jiao's question went straight to the point. Phantom Princess didn't realize that when she went back, she might have some associations that Li Mu didn't want her to have. When Li Mu pretended to be Little Snake, he was ravaged by Phantom Princess every day. He massaged her legs, shoulders, and feet. If Phantom Princess knew that Li Mu was Little Snake, Li Mu would have no face in front of her in the future. He absolutely couldn't allow such a thing to happen. There must be a way to explain it, there must be a way to explain it. Li Mu looked at Hu Jiao and an idea flashed in his mind. He simply admitted, Yes, that's right. I like Phantom Princess, but you found out. Hu Jiao was stunned and Phantom Princess was even more stunned. Li Mu's expression became even more indifferent. He said, You also know that I'm very lecherous. I can't wait to have all the beauties in the world. How can I let go of such a beautiful little fox? I originally wanted to take this opportunity to do you a favor. At that time, Phantom Princess will owe me a big favor. Besides marrying me, what can she use to repay me? Hu Jiao was stunned. Didn't you say that you want us to help you find evidence of Zhejiang Commandery Prince's crime? Li Mu snorted and said, I'm afraid you've forgotten who I am. I want a little Zhejiang Commandery Prince to die. What evidence do I need to find? Hu Jiao's throat moved and she swallowed a mouthful of saliva. With Li Mu's power, it didn't seem to be so troublesome to kill Zhejiang Commandery Prince. After Phantom Princess came to her senses, she looked at Li Mu and gritted her teeth. Don't even think about it. On the other hand, Hu Lu pulled down her collar and winked at Li Mu. She said, Lord Li, as long as you're willing to come to Meizong sect, I'm also willing to marry you. Li Mu shook his head and said flatly, You're too old. I don't want. After a short silence. Sister Lu, forget it. You can't beat him. Hu Jiao stopped the furious Hu Lu. She looked up at Li Mu and asked, You don't like Sister Lu. What do you think of me? There was another short silence. Li Mu gritted his teeth and said, Phantom Princess Hu Lu, don't stop me. Hu Jiao dodged the lightning and said, Life is short. Why not try? How will you know if you don't try? Chapter 455. In the eyes of Illusion Princess and Hu Jiu, Li Mu was just a lecher. He might as well admit it so that his image would not collapse. After striking Hu Jiu a few times, Li Mu said to Illusion Princess, "You can choose not to admit it as long as you feel good about it." Illusion Princess snorted and said, "I'm not that stupid fox in your house. I'll repay what I owe you in the future. You want me to repay you with my body? Dream on." Li Mu shrugged and didn't want to argue with her anymore. As long as she did not think that Li Mu was Little Snake, nothing else mattered. He walked into the prison and saw that the Jianghu commandery prince was still alive. It would not affect his return to the fairies' capital. There were many human women imprisoned by the Jianghu commandery prince and his followers. Li Mu had already ordered the local government to contact their families. Illusion Princess Hu Jiu and Hu Jiu were healing some demons. Many female demons were used as cultivation furnaces. They were recklessly harvested and damaged their foundation. Li Mu wanted to help, but these demons were very resistant to humans. He could only watch from the side. The matter of the Jianghu commandery prince was over. General Lu also left the city and returned to the army. The Jianghu commandery prince walked to Li Mu and said, "Lord Li, we've contacted most of the victims' families. Some of them did not have families and refused the government's arrangements. They wanted to follow the fox demon." Li Mu sighed and said, "Let them make their own decisions." After going through such a thing, it was hard for them to have any good feelings towards the government. They had not gone through their sufferings and had no right to interfere with their decisions. The Jianghu commandery prince's mansion was temporarily used to house the victims. Illusion Princess was healing them, but her mana was limited. Soon, she overdrew her mana and was forcefully helped by Hu Lu to a room to rest. When Li Mu walked into the room, she was lying on the table and sleeping soundly. She was holding 2 spiritual jades in her hand to recover her mana. Li Mu let out a sigh of relief. Now this matter was finally over. From then on, there was no more Little Snake Wu Yanzu. There was only the great Zhou's Li Mu. He turned around and left. When he reached the door, the sleeping phantom princess murmured, "Little Snake, don't go. Help me rub my shoulders. I'm so tired." Li Mu paused for a moment. After a long silence, he sighed. When Huanji woke up, her eyes were a little dazed. In her dream, she vaguely felt a pair of hands gently kneading her shoulders. It was very comfortable. When she woke up, there was nothing behind her. This made her suspect that it was an illusion. Hu Lu walked in from outside and said, "Master Illusion Princess, you're awake?" Illusion Princess asked, "Who just came in?" Hu Lu snorted and said, "That blind man." Illusion Princess knew that she was talking about Li Mu. She then realized that this pervert didn't take advantage of her while she was sleeping, right? She didn't know if he had touched any other places besides her shoulders. Fantasy Princess lowered her head to look at her chest and then turned back to look at her round and perky breasts. She couldn't remember if anyone had touched her there before. She stood up and asked angrily, "Where is he?" Hu Lu said, "He left." Illusion Princess was stunned and asked, "Where did he go?" "He should have returned to the great Zhou's Shindu." Hu Lu's expression was a little complicated. When he left, he said that the Jianghu County King's matter was the imperial court's fault. "So, Master Illusion Princess doesn't owe him anything and doesn't need to repay him with your body?" Illusion Princess snorted and said, "In his dreams. Who said I was going to repay him with my body?" Hu Lu said, "Also before he left he asked the Jianghu County King's officials to escort us back. This is the first time I've seen a human like this. Is he doing all this just because he wants Master Illusion Princess's body?" Illusion Princess didn't want to think about this and said, "Let Hu Jiu prepare. Let's go back. I don't want to stay here for another minute." After leaving Jianghu County, Li Mu buried everything that happened in the past few months in his heart. He didn't want to mention it to anyone. He wanted to return to Mount Baiyun and tell Xiao by the cultivation method of the fox race. Then he wanted to spend some time with Lu Hanyan and Li Qing. He hoped that they weren't in seclusion. Just as he rose into the air, 2 figures blocked his path. Li Mu glanced at the 2 high priests and asked, "What are you doing?" One high priest said, "Her Majesty ordered that Master Li must return to the Shindu immediately after dealing with Jianghu County King's matter." Li Mu waved his hand and said, "You guys go back first. I'll be back soon. I need to go back to Mount Baiyun first." The 2 high priests didn't move. Li Mu frowned and said, "What is the meaning of this?" The other high priest said, "We can't go against Her Majesty's orders. Master Li, please excuse us. What are you doing? Are you rebelling? Don't come over. Do you still want your heavenly secret talisman? At least let me pick someone up." Li Mu tried his best to persuade the two old men to let him go back to Mount Baiyun to pick up Wan Wan and Xiao Bai. As for the idea of spending some time with Lu Hanyan and Li Qin, it was ruined. However, the two of them were in seclusion, so Li Mu didn't feel that it was a pity. The two girls' current cultivation bases weren't achieved step by step. As the core disciples of Fulu School and the future head of the school, they had a lot of homework to catch up on in the next few years. Poor Li Mu was no longer a single dog, but he was still living the life of a single dog. Fortunately, he had a strong will. Normal men wouldn't be able to resist the temptation of cat girls, rabbit girls, beautiful fox demons and clingy snake girls. They would have been persuaded by Hu Jio to betray him. In a sense, Li Mu and the Empress were both pitiful people. One of them had a husband who died a long time ago, while the other was separated from his wife. If it weren't for their status and self-control, who knew what kind of sparks would fly between them after spending so much time together? Xiao Bai had already started cultivating according to the new method. On the flying boat to the divine capital, Li Mu looked at Wan Wan and Xiao Bai, who was laughing and playing with each other. He couldn't help but think of Phantom Princess and the days when he was undercover in Thousand Fox Nation. There were no conspiracies, no schemes and no schemes. Those were the days he missed, Thousand Fox Nation. Phantom Princess spent a few days settling down the demons and human female cultivators she rescued from Jianghu County. Then, she dragged her exhausted body back to her residence. Her magic power and body were overused. Even with her cultivation base, she felt physically and mentally exhausted at this moment. It was already late at night. She walked to her courtyard and sat on a stone chair. She said subconsciously, "Little snake, come and help me massage my back." There was no response for a long time. Phantom Princess said again, "Little?" Her voice gradually trailed off and finally disappeared completely. Only a long sigh was left in the silent courtyard. At the same time, in Thousand Fox Nation's imperial palace, Bai Xian was pacing in his palace with a displeased expression. He snorted coldly, "I thought the Duke of Jianghu was powerful. He's simply a piece of trash among trash. He let them escape." A servant behind him said, "I've already asked around. If it wasn't for that damn snake, Hu Jio and the others wouldn't have survived this time." Bai Xian said, "I've long disliked that snake. It's good that he's dead. Next time no one will ruin our plans. However, if junior sister dies like this, it'll be a pity. The heavenly fox bloodline in her body is so thick that even master can't compare to it. If I can dual cultivate with her, it'll be very beneficial for me." He tidied up his clothes and smiled. "She almost died this time. As her senior brother, I should go and see her." Phantom Princess residence. Phantom Princess sat in the courtyard and said lightly, "I'm fine. Crown Prince, please go back. I need to rest." Bai Xian stood outside the courtyard and said, "Junior sister, rest well. I'll go back first." He didn't even step into the courtyard. Bai Xian returned to the palace with a gloomy face. When he returned to his bedroom, he saw a black figure standing in the hall. His expression immediately became respectful. He bowed and said, "Envoy, what are your orders?" The black figure asked eerily, "You should know where Heaven Lord of Illusion is in seclusion, right?" Bai Xian's eyelids twitched. He quickly smiled and said, "This seclusion is very important to him. Although he didn't tell me the exact location, there are only a few. If I search one by one, I'll find it." Chapter 456. Li Mu had just finished his undercover life in Jianghu Nation. After returning to Xindu, he began to busy himself with official business again. The first thing he had to deal with was the Empress's backlog of memorials. If the Empress was judged by the Emperor's standards, she was definitely a fatuous ruler. Li Mu was a censor in the Imperial Secretariat, but he was ordered to be a head eunuch by her. She read books and planted flowers every day. It was too easy to be an emperor. After returning from Jianghu County, Li Mu no longer had to worry about his identity being exposed. Shangguan Li and Mr. Mei had already found out the two palace maids who were on duty near Chang'e Palace. They had been secretly providing information for Meizong all this time. They were the ones who leaked the news of Li Mu sleeping in the palace to Meizong. His reputation with the Empress was also damaged because of this. Hu Jio still thought that Li Mu was an LSP and had an affair with the Empress. They had maintained an improper relationship for a long time. In the Imperial Clan Temple, the internal guards and the Imperial Clan Temple were interrogating the two palace maids. These two palace maids had been in the palace for 7 or 8 years. They were selected to enter the palace during the time of the former emperor. This meant that Meizong knew everything that happened in the palace during these 7 or 8 years. They even knew which concubine the former emperor slept with, how many times he slept with her, and how long he lasted each time. In the court, Zhang Chun patted the gavel and asked, "Who else do you have in Shindu? Tell me honestly so that you don't have to suffer the pain of soul-searching." The 2 palace maids lowered their heads and looked indifferent. They were not afraid of Zhang Chun's threat at all. Mr. Mei sighed and said, "You are also citizens of the Great Zhou. You are human women. Why do you work for the demon sect?" One of the palace maids looked up and sneered, "The demon sect was called by you. In our eyes you are the demons." Mr. Mei shook his head and said to Li Mu, "It seems that they have been brainwashed by Meizong." Li Mu did not agree with Mr. Mei's words. He had been undercover in Meizong for a few months and knew Meizong's methods. Meizong would not brainwash the spies because those who could be brainwashed were usually not very bright. And those who were not very bright could not be spies. Meizong would not take them seriously at all. When they chose people, the first thing they had to do was to be good-looking. Secondly, they had to be smart. Those who chose to join the Meizong sect, other than those who harbored evil intentions, no matter if they were humans or demons, they would definitely hate the imperial court from the bottom of their hearts. The 2 palace maids did not cooperate at all, so Zhang Chun could only forcibly search their souls. The process of soul-searching was very painful. The 2 palace maids were mortals who had never cultivated. After Zhang Chun finished soul-searching, they fainted. Zhang Chun had a complicated expression on his face after he was done with the soul search. He was no longer as stern and unyielding as before. Mr. Mei asked, "Have you found their accomplices?" Zhang Chun shook his head and said, "No, they are in one-way contact. They don't know anything other than collecting information." Li Mu was familiar with Zhang Chun and knew that his expression was definitely not because he did not find any useful information. He looked at Zhang Chun and asked, "Is there anything else?" Zhang Chun sighed and said, "It's a sin." He used his magic to share the information he found with everyone. After a while, Li Mu knew the cause and effect of the matter. These 2 women were both from Zhejiang County. They were originally young ladies of a big family and had lived a carefree life. Later they were abducted by the heretic practitioners and locked in a hidden underground palace. They were subjected to sexual abuse and became the cultivation furnaces for the cultivators. They lived in darkness for several months until the people of Meizong sect found them. They killed the heretic practitioners and destroyed the underground palace. They saved the demon clans who were also being humiliated in the underground palace and saved them. After that, the 2 of them joined Meizong. They were good-looking and came from big families. After Meizong helped them reconstruct their bodies, they easily passed the selection of the late emperor and became palace maids. They had been hiding in the palace. The reason why they hated the imperial court was that the culprit who caused their miserable experience was the local county magistrate, an official of the imperial court. The miserable experience of those months buried an unresolvable hatred in their hearts. They naturally transferred this hatred to the Great Zhou court. In the court, Mr. Mei and Shangwanli did not speak, but their fists were clenched. The people of the Great Zhou were destroyed by these bastards. Zhang Chun sighed and asked, "How should we deal with these 2? According to the law, the 2 of them would definitely die if they went undercover in the palace of the Great Zhou." Li Mu thought for a while and said, "Let's lock them up first. If our spies are discovered, we'll exchange them." "That's a good idea." Zhang Chun waved his hand and said, "Take them away first." After leaving the Zongjing temple, Li Mu thought about a problem. The human race and the demon race were not 2 incompatible races. The reason for such a serious conflict was largely related to the imperial court's attitude toward the demon race. Many heretical cultivation were worried that the imperial court would investigate, so they did not dare to attack the people of the Great Zhou. Therefore they targeted the demons. But then again, whether her body was tired or not was completely different from whether she felt comfortable rubbing her shoulders. Who didn't want to be waited on by others? The Empress reminded him that a few days ago, he was the one waiting on others. Now it was time for him to enjoy himself. He would go back now and let Wanwan and Xiaobai massage his shoulders and legs. He would experience the joy of being a fantasy princess. Thinking of this, Li Mu could not wait any longer. He stood up and said, "I finished reading the memorials. Your Majesty can take a look at them. I'll go back first." With that, he turned and walked out of Changle Palace. At the entrance of Changle Palace, Mr. Mei looked at Li Mu in surprise. He asked, "Why did you come out?" Li Mu shrugged and said, "I finished reading the memorials. I'm a little tired." When I go back, I'll let Xiao Bai and Wan Wan massage me? Mr. Mei looked at him blankly. Li Mu waved at the two of them and said, see you later. Chapter 457. In order to avoid being criticized again, Li Mu did not stay in Jianghu Palace for long after he returned. This way, even if the demon sect still had spies in the palace, they would only think that the Empress thought highly of him and would often summon him to Jianghu Palace to discuss matters of state. They would not spread rumors that he had an affair with the Empress and was a gigolo she kept in the palace. In the Li residence, Wan Wan and Xiao Bai were in the front and back respectively. Li Mu lay comfortably on a chair, enjoying the service of their little hands. Although he was comfortable, Li Mu could not help but feel a trace of melancholy in his heart. The residence was too big and had countless rooms. There were only 3 of them and they only slept in one room and one bed. The huge residence seemed especially cold and cheerless. In short, the residence lacked a mistress. Just as this thought arose, Li Mu's vision blurred, and a figure appeared in the courtyard. Xiao Bai's eyes curved as she giggled and said, Sister Zhou, you're here? Wan Wan stared at a box in the Empress's hand and asked curiously, Sister Zhou, what are you holding in your hand? Zhou Yi handed the box to her and said, this is a new type of pastry that the imperial chef developed. Tastes pretty good, try it? Wan Wan did not have time to massage Li Mu's legs. She hugged the box and ran to the stone table with Xiao Bai, impatiently trying out the new pastry developed by the imperial chef. Li Mu, who had not yet reacted, was still lying comfortably on the chair. Zhou Yi glanced at him and asked, are you waiting for me to massage your legs and shoulders? The Empress was standing, so Li Mu did not dare to lie down. He immediately flipped over and said, Your Majesty, please? When the Empress lay down where he had been lying, Li Mu realized that the two of them were standing in an inappropriate position. The Empress was standing and he could not lie down. Otherwise, it would seem like he was waiting for the Empress to serve him. However, the Empress was lying down while he was standing. Some things could be seen clearly from a bird's eye view. Li Mu didn't even dare to lower his head. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Li Mu's mind. He walked behind the Empress and said, Your Majesty, aren't your shoulders a bit sore? Why don't I give Your Majesty a massage? Your Majesty's shoulder massaging technique is not bad, Zhou Yi said faintly. You must have gotten familiar with that vixen when you were in Thousand Fox Country. Back in the palace, I didn't see you being so attentive to me. I didn't expect my subject to be trained by a vixen. Li Mu was startled and a thought flashed through his mind. The Empress was obviously jealous of Phantom Princess. When he was in Jianghu Palace, he only wanted to come back and find Wan Wan and Xiao Bai. He didn't realize that the Empress was hinting at him. This wasn't the first time Li Mu noticed that the Empress had a strong possessive desire for him. This didn't mean that the Empress had fallen in love with him. Possessiveness was human nature. She wasn't the only one who wanted to possess Li Mu. Li Mu also wanted to possess her. Not to mention anything else, if the Empress had another subject who was as good to him as she was to herself, Li Mu wouldn't feel comfortable in his heart. Li Mu secretly broke into a cold sweat for himself. Fortunately, he came to his senses early. If he persisted until night fell, he would inevitably be beaten up in his dreams. Zhou Yi looked quite domineering, but she was actually more of a woman than anyone else. She would never say what was on her mind. Instead, she would let Li Mu guess it himself. If he guessed it right, everyone would be happy. If he guessed wrong, she would vent her anger in his dreams. It must be because she didn't enjoy the same treatment as Phantom Princess. Her tone was as if she had drunk an entire jar of aged vinegar. Li Mu took the initiative to put his hands on her shoulders. He rubbed here and there and finally calmed her down. She lay there comfortably and closed her eyes to rest. She didn't speak anymore. At a certain moment, Li Mu said softly, There is an important matter that I would like to discuss with Your Majesty. Zhou Yi closed her eyes and said, Speak. Li Mu organized his words and said, This time when I was undercover in Jianghu country, I discovered something. The reason why most of the demons hate the Great Zhou and hate humans is because of the unfairness between humans and demons in the Great Zhou. When demons harm humans, they will be destroyed by the imperial court. However, humans can kill demons wantonly, take their souls, and steal their monster cores. They can even do crueler things to demons. This is actually the root of the conflict between humans and demons. If we want to improve the relationship between humans and demons and promote the stability of the counties, we can only pass the imperial court's legislation. Zhou Yi's eyes were still closed. She said, Most of the courtiers and even the common people have an inexorable prejudice against demons. Many people will oppose this matter. Li Mu said, I think that the people of the 36 counties are the people of the Great Zhou. In the Great Zhou, the demons who abide by the laws are also the people of the Great Zhou. Although the demons are not as numerous as the common people, they can develop intelligence or take human form. They all have cultivation and the power they produce is far greater than that of the common people. If the demons in the Great Zhou are united, they will condense the Emperor's chi faster and your majesty will be able to escape as soon as possible. Zhou Yi's eyes suddenly opened. She looked around and said, Since you think it's right, then do it boldly. I will always be behind you, Morning Court. An official's spittle flew everywhere. Absurd, simply absurd. What does the life and death of the demons have to do with the court? The court is the court of the common people, not the court of the demons. If they even have to care about the matters of the demons, then how busy will the local officials be? How many cultivators make a living by killing demons? Won't the court become the enemy of those cultivators? A different voice said, Lord Yan's words are wrong. In this way the demons will certainly hate the court much less. It will be beneficial in easing the conflict between humans and demons. I agree. Humans and demons are all living creatures. If the demons are willing to abide by the laws, then the Great Zhou may be able to accept them. Our Great Zhou's celestial empire must have the magnanimity of a celestial empire. Another official stood up and said, Lord Yan's words make sense. The counties can't even manage their own matters. How can they have the time to care about the demons? Another person agreed. This is the biggest joke in the world. Our human court is making decisions for the demons. How will the demon kingdom view us? How will the Shin kingdom and the Yong kingdom view us? Our Great Zhou will become the joke of all the other countries. The court is protecting the demons. This is simply unprecedented. I object. I also object. Once this topic was raised, it caused a strong reaction in the court. Although a few officials agreed at the beginning, they were quickly drowned out by voices of opposition. There were even officials who stood up and questioned, just whose suggestion was it? Stand up and let everyone see. Li Mu slowly walked out and said, It was me. As he walked out, the voices of discussion in the court gradually quieted down. Finally they completely disappeared. You could hear a pin drop. Although Li Mu often did not attend court for several months, no one dared to look down on him. Both the old and new factions combined had been defeated by Li Mu. The students of the academy had been arrogant for a while, but now they were as obedient as sheep. Even the Zhou clan and the Shao clan, after their successive defeats, had to avoid the sharp edge, not daring to oppose Li Mu directly. The official who had just asked Li Mu to stand up stood in a daze. He was completely stupefied. In this instant, countless thoughts flashed through his mind. Was over? He did not expect that the person he had attacked was Li Mu. After court, he would definitely suffer the revenge of this powerful official of the Great Zhou. The beautiful concubine he had just married would probably not be able to sleep for more than a few nights. The new house that he had just lived in for a year would also become someone else's after it was confiscated. He would probably have to sleep in the cemetery with excellent feng shui that he had chosen for his old father in his hometown, Nanjun. A moment later, the official wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead and said seriously, Lord Li's suggestion is truly wonderful. Not only can this move alleviate the conflict between humans and demons, it can also stabilize the various prefectures, and it can also subtly divide the demon kingdom. This official's respect for Lord Li is like a torrential river, endless and unending. It is also like an overflowing river, unable to be controlled once it starts flowing. With Lord Li in the imperial court, it is truly the blessing of the Great Zhou dynasty and the common people. Another official who had objected looked at this person with disdain. He strode out and said with righteous indignation, Demon race, so what if they are demons? Demons are also born and raised by their parents. As long as they are in the Great Zhou, they are the people of the Great Zhou. I have long disliked those cultivators with evil intentions. Uniting the demon race can strengthen the national strength of the Great Zhou. I strongly recommend that the Department of Worship recruit some demon experts. The various yamens should also eliminate discrimination and fully utilize the role of demons. Using demons to control demons can greatly reduce the pressure on the local yamens to govern the areas under their jurisdiction. The Ministry of Revenue can register these demons as demon citizens. The demon citizens are also the people of the Great Zhou and are protected by the laws of the Great Zhou. They also have to bear the responsibility of protecting the country. At some point, the officials in the court no longer objected to this matter. Instead, they began to make plans for the implementation of this matter. After brainstorming and discussing for a while, everyone unexpectedly discovered that the benefits of uniting the demon race seemed to far outweigh the disadvantages. It could even create a new structure that had never been seen since the establishment of the Great Zhou. Chapter 458. Li Mu thought that this proposal would be opposed by many, but he did not expect the court officials to be so reasonable. The officials of the various departments spoke one after another about the plan to incorporate the demons in the Great Zhou. They also put forward many constructive suggestions, many of which even Li Mu himself did not think of. After the court, these suggestions could be sorted out and modified, and then directly promulgated. Of course, there were some officials who expressed their concerns. The conflict between humans and demons had been going on for a long time. It was not something that could be easily resolved by promulgating a law. The common people had a natural fear of demons. This law might cause panic among the common people, which was not conducive to the unity of the people's hearts. This matter was of great importance. After the Hall of Secretaries drafted the regulations, the Minxia province did not immediately agree. Instead, they first spread the news and observed the reactions of the common people in Luoyang. After the news of this case spread out of the palace, it immediately caused widespread discussion among the common people. To be more precise, it caused widespread concern among the common people. Humans and demons were different. In the eyes of most people, demons were powerful and cruel. Even when adults scared children, they would be captured by demons if they disobeyed. What did the imperial court mean by this? On the streets of Luoyang, a group of people gathered. What, there's such a thing? If the imperial court is so free, why are they protecting those demons? Demons are always causing trouble and harming the common people. The government is not protecting the common people, but them? I wonder who came up with this bad idea. Could he be a spy sent by the demons? The imperial court should really investigate him, an insider said. I heard it was Lord Li who suggested it. Everyone asked, which Lord Li? That person said, of course it's young Lord Li. There were many officials in the imperial court with the surname Li, but there was only one person who could be called Lord Li by the common people. The person who suspected that the official who made the suggestion was a spy for the demons was stunned. Then he slapped his mouth and cursed, damn it, how could I suspect Lord Li? Since Lord Li suggested it, he must have his reasons for it. Someone said, it's said that protecting the demons is to stop them from hating the imperial court. If the demons don't hate the imperial court, they naturally won't cause trouble and harm the common people. After everyone thought about it, they felt that what he said made sense. I see. Lord Li is really far-sighted, so Lord Li is still thinking for us, the common people. That's right. Do you think that Lord Li is the same as those fellows in the imperial court who do nothing? The people of Shen-Du trusted Li Mu unconditionally. After figuring out the reason behind this, the people started to talk about it. Actually, demons aren't that scary. They'll be the same as us even if they turn into humans. Maybe we already have demons around us. The books say that snake demons' legs are the best at clinging to people. Actually, I've wanted to try it for a long time. I want to see how seductive a vixen is. I wonder if there's any way for my cat to become a spirit. The officials of the Minxia province mixed in with the crowd to listen in on the situation. One of them clicked his tongue and asked, let's be frank, I really want to see the legs of a snake demon. Another person said expectantly, I wonder if the imperial court allows officials to marry demons. To be honest, I want to marry a fox spirit. I saved a fox 2 years ago. Last month, it cultivated into a human form and came to me to repay my kindness. The taste of a fox spirit is really unforgettable. The person beside her was puzzled. Didn't you say that it was a male fox? That person said, I didn't say it was a female either. The two of them chatted for a while and realized that they had seriously strayed from the topic. They were ordered to listen in on the situation of the people. The Lord Attendant wanted to know what the people thought about this matter. However, after walking 2 streets, they didn't hear much criticism. Instead, many people were discussing whether the snake demon's legs were clinging to people or whether the fox spirit was seductive. This actually revealed a very important piece of information. The people had great trust in Li Mu. What was certain was that if the same proposal was proposed by them or other officials, they would definitely be scolded to death by the people. However, if it was proposed by Li Mu, the result was completely different. He had completely won the trust of the people. The two of them sighed as they returned to the secretariat and reported what they had seen and heard. The left attendant sighed and said, this kind of person is too scary. With his own strength, he hijacked the people's will. If he wholeheartedly serves the Great Zhou, it will be a blessing for the Great Zhou. If he has disloyalty, it will be a disaster for the Great Zhou. If the previous emperor was still alive, he would definitely not allow such a person to exist. The right attendant sighed and said, "But the empress is not the previous emperor. Of all the officials in the court, she only has eyes for Li Mu. She leaves all the court matters to him." Ever since Li Mu returned to Luoyang, the Jianghu palace no longer has a backlog of memorials, the left attendant said, "But I have to say that this person is indeed a great talent in governing the country. After 2 dynasties of decline, the Great Zhou was able to recover so quickly and even become stronger. Can almost be said that it is his work alone." The right attendant's eyes shone with a strange light. He said, "At first glance, the plan to take in the demon clan was a waste of the court's energy. But after careful consideration, it is simply wonderful. If the demon clan in the Great Zhou can be used by the court, the local counties will become unprecedentedly strong and cohesive. For this, even if we have to pay some price, it is worth it," the left attendant said. "Now I actually hope that Her Majesty can continue to sit on the throne. The Great Zhou has been reborn with great difficulty. If after another setback the other countries will become disloyal again and the Demon Kingdom and Ghost Realm will take advantage of the situation to invade, the fate of the Great Zhou for hundreds of years will come to an end." The right attendant had a doubtful expression and asked, "What do you think Her Majesty is thinking?" "Until now, she has not revealed any information about who she wants to pass the throne to. I'm afraid that the Shao clan and the Zhou clan are not sure." The left attendant pondered for a moment and muttered, "Do you think there is another possibility?" The two of them looked at each other. Their minds were already connected. The following conversation was completely carried out through telepathy. The Li residence. The development of the matter was far smoother than Li Mu had imagined. Not only did the courtiers not show any overwhelming opposition, even though some of the commoners were panicking, they still believed in the court and Li Mu. This was due to the trust he had built up with them over the past 2 years. There was another reason that Li Mu hadn't thought of. Due to the popularity of Strange Stories from a Strange Story, many novel authors rushed to imitate the plot style of Strange Stories from a Strange Story. Thus, starting about a year ago, the story of a young man who had a fortuitous encounter and cultivated diligently, slaying demons and eliminating evils for the people, and finally becoming a powerhouse of a generation, was no longer popular with most readers. Men preferred the romance between human beings and demonic ghosts. Some of the works aimed at women were even more explicit and bold. Whether it was an unmarried girl or a married woman, they would more or less have 1 or 2 such books under their pillows or at the bottom of their dowry boxes. A snake demon's legs were the most clingy, and a fox demon's legs were the most seductive in bed. Jokes like these also came from these YY novels. It was true that fox demons were seductive. Xiao Bai would often inadvertently seduce Li Mu until he felt hot all over and had to use the clear heart technique to resist. As for whether a snake demon's legs were the most clingy, Li Mu didn't know. In any case, the Empress was quite clingy. Although he didn't live in Jianghu Palace anymore, the Empress treated this place as her home. When she was here, Li Mu had to carefully serve her. She lay on his chair, drank his tea, held his niece, and even let Li Mu massage her back and shoulders. Li Mu used to hope that he could replace Shangguan Li's position, and now he really did. In the past, it was she who served the Empress, and now it was Li Mu. There was a knock on the door. Li Mu removed his hand from the Empress's body and walked to the door. Just as he opened the door, a green figure pounced on him. The girl in the green dress hooked her arms around Li Mu's neck and hung herself on him. Her 2 slender legs were tightly wrapped around Li Mu's waist. She happily said, "Uncle, my sister and I are here to seek shelter from you." Li Mu sighed in his heart. A snake demon's legs were indeed clingy. Hu Jiuqing didn't lie to him. Chapter 459. It was true that the snake demon's legs were the most clingy. Li Mu spent a lot of effort to remove Bai Tingxin from his body. After 2 years of not seeing each other, the 2 sisters had grown even more beautiful. One was wearing a white dress, while the other was wearing a green dress. Their figures were also slightly taller as they stood at the entrance of the Li residence. Li Mu looked around and asked, "Where are your parents?" Bai Tingxin said angrily, "Humph, they were traveling around the continent. They thought we were a burden, so they sent us back to the North County to cultivate. Sister said she missed you and insisted on coming here to find you. I could only follow her." Bai Tingxin twisted her ear and said angrily, "Who was the one who made a fuss about coming to the fairies' capital?" How dare you talk about me? Li Mu said helplessly, all right, come in first. This time the White Demon King and his wife did not come. Only the two sisters came. Li Mu was secretly worried for them. These two nieces were really daring. Snake demons and fox demons were the favorite of those heretical cultivation. Even Fifth Realm experts were often captured, let alone these two little demons who had just condensed their demon cores. They were lucky to have come here safely. Bai Tingxin walked into the courtyard first and asked, "Are the ants at home?" Li Mu said, "No, they are at Mount Baiyun." "Hee, that's good." Bai Tingxin was secretly delighted. She muttered softly. Then she was stunned and asked, "They are?" Li Mu did not explain too much. He only said, "You have two ants now." Bai Tingxin looked at the other beautiful woman standing in the courtyard and said blankly, "Is this third ant?" Li Mu said with a serious expression, "Don't be rude. This is Her Majesty the Empress of the Great Zhou." Zhou Yi only glanced at Bai Tingxin indifferently. She was so scared that she hid behind Li Mu and looked at the Empress with frightened eyes. She grew up in the mountains and was like a little princess at home. She could get whatever she wanted. She did not feel anything about being called the Empress of the Great Zhou. She only vaguely felt that this beautiful woman was very powerful. She was so powerful that she could crush her with her little finger. Li Mu walked to the Empress and introduced, "Your Majesty, these two are the daughters of my sworn brother. The wild demons do not know the rules. Please forgive them, Your Majesty." Wan and Xiaobai also ran over from the side and said happily, "Sister White Snake, Sister Green Snake, you are here?" Li Mu felt that the house was too quiet just now. Now it was so lively that it gave him a headache. Wan and Xiaobai were not talkative. Inxin used to be lively, but after condensing the Yao core, she gradually became a lady snake. Only Tingxin was crazy. Li Mu thought that she would restrain herself after condensing the Yao core. He did not expect that after her cultivation improved, she became more lively. Even Wan and Xiaobai were affected. However, there were benefits to being noisy. At least the house was more lively. Because of the sisters, Li Mu added a few more dishes. After dinner, Li Mu gave them a stack of banknotes. Wan and Xiaobai took them to the streets to sweep. Demons from remote places needed some time to adapt to Xin Du for the first time. When Li Mu was washing the dishes in the kitchen, the Empress stood in the courtyard and said, "Your nieces are not ordinary snake demons." Li Mu explained while washing the dishes, "Your Majesty, their father is from the snake race and their mother is from the dragon race. They have half of the dragon race's bloodline." Zhou Yi said, "No wonder you don't hate the demon race. There are more demons in your family than humans." Li Mu explained awkwardly, "Humans are divided into good and bad people. Demons are also divided into good and evil demons. They cannot be lumped together." Little Bai Wan had gone shopping with the Bai sisters. She probably wouldn't return until nightfall. The Empress rolled up her sleeves and brought Li Mu back to the palace. There were still some details to be discussed in the Imperial Secretariat regarding the incorporation of the demonic beasts. With the help of the officials, the general policy was formulated. After reading it, Li Mu found that there were no problems. He went to Chang'e Palace and continued to help the Empress read the memorials. After reading a few memorials, Li Mu saw the one from Zhejiang County. After the case of the second-rank prince of Zhejiang was exposed, his followers were either banished to the army or exiled. As for the second-rank prince of Zhejiang, he was a member of the Shao royal family. If they wanted to determine his life or death, they would have to go through the procedures of the Ministry of Justice, the Ancestral Temple, and the 3 provinces. They would have to carefully examine the evidence of his crimes. Li Mu frowned when he flipped open the letter and read its contents. The memorial said that Zhejiang County's king had committed suicide in prison. During this time, he had been imprisoned in Zhejiang County's prison. 3 days ago, the jailer found him dead in his cell. The cause of death was the dissipation of his primordial spirit. After the investigation, the conclusion was that Zhejiang County's king knew that he would die for his crimes. To avoid suffering, he committed suicide. Since he would die sooner or later, he would not waste the imperial court's resources by doing it himself. Li Mu put down the memorial and stopped paying attention to the matter. At the same time, Divine Capital's southern court, King Ping's residence. There were 7 princes in the Divine Capital. King Ping was the most senior among them. He was also the pillar of the royal family and the old party. In King Ping's study, Xiao Ziyu said slowly, "The 3 provinces have all approved the proposal to incorporate the demons in the Great Zhou. Any demon that enters the Great Zhou will be protected by the laws of the Great Zhou. Killing demons is the same as slaughtering the citizens of the Great Zhou. The prefectures and the consecration department can't just sit by and watch. King Ping said calmly, I understand. You may leave. Xiao Ziyu cupped his fists and left. In the shadows of the study, a black shadow gradually formed and whispered, Master, I've dealt with Xiao Heng according to your instructions. King Ping snorted and said, You can't do anything right, but you're good at spoiling things. You almost ruined everything. The black shadow said slowly, If demons are going to become citizens of the Great Zhou, it won't be so easy to attack them in the future. We must stop the imperial court from pushing this. King Ping waved his hand and said, Forget it. Let's not provoke that person. We've lost 3 years of fighting with the Zhou clan. Why don't we fight with him for 3 months? It's better not to provoke him. When he hits a wall, he'll give up. When Li Mu returned from the palace, Wan Wan and Xiao Bai had already returned. The sisters Yin Xin and Ting Xin were choosing their rooms. Li Mu asked, Does Brother Bai know that you've come to the divine capital? Bai Ting Xin snorted and said, He only has eyes for my mother. He can't be bothered with us. Li Mu shook his head and said, No matter what, we still have to tell him. Bai Ting Xin pouted. If I don't, he'll get the other uncles to capture us. Li Mu said, Be good. I'll tell him when the time comes. Bai Ting Xin reluctantly took out a conch. After activating it, she said a few words to the conch and then handed it to Li Mu. Li Mu took the conch. Li Mu heard the White Demon King's apologetic voice, Third brother, I'm really sorry. These 2 girls have troubled you. I'll get someone to bring them back in a few days. Li Mu smiled and said, No need. If they're willing to stay here, then they can cultivate here. Staying here is beneficial to their cultivation. The White Demon King laughed and said, Then I'll leave it to you. If they're disobedient, you can discipline them on my behalf. Especially Ting Xin. Discipline her when you need to. Don't spoil her. After exchanging a few more words with the White Demon King, Li Mu returned the conch to Bai Ting Xin. She hugged Li Mu's arm and shook it. She said obediently, I'll definitely listen to you, uncle. Li Mu pulled his hand out of her embrace. It was indeed better for them to stay here than to cultivate in the north region. The last time they parted, Wan Wan's cultivation was still very low. Now she was the same as them. Xiao Bai had far surpassed them. He didn't dare to say too much, but it shouldn't be a problem for them to both enter the 5th realm after staying with Li Mu for a year. Moreover, the Demon Clan's heavenly book that Li Mu obtained from the Demon Emperor's cave abode happened to be useful. There was a complete cultivation method of the Snake Clan in it. Li Mu could also cultivate this cultivation method. However, he was a human after all. He could only cultivate to the 5th or 6th realm. Only a true Snake Clan member could unleash the power of the Snake Clan's cultivation method. Not long ago, when Li Mu pretended to be a snake demon and was undercover in the Thousand Fox City, Phantom Princess rewarded him with a 5th realm snake demon pill in order to improve his cultivation. He had been keeping it. Li Mu stretched out his hand and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. Bai Ting Xin asked curiously, What's this? Li Mu said, This is... He had just said 2 words when he suddenly realized that there was only 1 demon pill, but his nieces had 2. Who should he give it to? Both of them were flesh and blood. As an elder, if he favored one and discriminated against the other would feel terrible. Li Mu thought for a moment and asked, Look at this jade bottle. Isn't it beautiful? Chapter 460. The jade bottle floating in Li Mu's hand was sparkling and translucent. It was indeed very beautiful. But what was even more beautiful was the thumb-sized golden demon core in the jade bottle. The jade bottle could not isolate the aura of the 5th realm snake demon core. The 2 sisters looked at the jade bottle in Li Mu's hand and swallowed their saliva at the same time. The green snake's reaction was even faster. She grabbed the jade bottle from Li Mu's hand and asked, Uncle, is this for me? What else could Li Mu say? He nodded and said, This is a snake demon core that I accidentally obtained. Take it and refine it. It can improve your cultivation. Thank you, Uncle. Bai Ting Xin's face revealed a bright smile. Li Mu once again felt the strength of her slender legs. Not only that, she also took the opportunity to kiss Li Mu's face. If Li Mu did not dodge quickly, she would have kissed Li Mu's mouth. Li Mu frowned and said, No manners. In the future, don't do this. Looking at her blinking innocently, Li Mu couldn't say what he wanted to say next. After all, she was just a snake demon without much life experience. She was his niece. What bad intentions could she have? If he said too much, it would make Li Mu look like a dirty person. Li Mu waved his hand and said, "Okay, go back to your rooms and rest. I also need to rest." After Li Mu left, the two sisters went back to their rooms. Their rooms were in the same courtyard, one in the east and one in the west. Bai Yinxin returned to her room and sat by the table. She rested her chin on one hand and a smile appeared on her face. Suddenly there was movement at the window. A figure slipped in through the window. She glanced at her sister and said unhappily, "Why aren't you sleeping? What are you doing here?" Bai Tingxin put the jade bottle on the table and said, "This is for you." Bai Yinxin glanced at it and shook her head, "You should refine it. Your cultivation is low." Bai Tingxin shook her head and said, "My cultivation is low anyway. After refining it, I won't be able to advance much. Why don't you increase your cultivation to protect me?" As for Mu, she kissed Bai Yinxin's face, then slipped to the window and said, "I'm going back to sleep, sister." The next day when Li Mu woke up, Wan Wan and Xiao Bai had already prepared breakfast. After the meal, Li Mu called the two sisters to the courtyard. He stretched out his hand, and with a flash of white light, a light soft armor appeared on his hand. She handed the soft armor to Bai Yinxin and said, "Wear this immortal robe." Bai Yinxin said softly, "Thank you, uncle." Li Mu handed her a sword and said, "Take this sword as well." The sword he gave to White Snake was also given to him by Phantom Princess. This sword's grade was not low. It was once owned by a snake expert of Meizong's sect. Even the sword's body was in the shape of a snake, which was suitable for her. Yesterday the demon core was given to Green Snake, and these two magic treasures were given to White Snake. It showed that Li Mu was impartial and did not favor anyone. Seeing her sister's immortal robe and immortal sword, Bai Tingxin looked at Li Mu expectantly. However, Li Mu did not look at her at all. Li Mu continued to say to Bai Yinxin, "Come with me. I'll teach you a few more techniques of the demon race." Seeing Li Mu leave with her sister, Bai Tingxin stood in the courtyard and pouted. Tears were rolling in her eyes. The demon core was her sister's, the immortal robe was her sister's, and the magic treasures were her sister's. Even the techniques were only taught to her sister. She had nothing. How could he bully her like this? Boo-hoo, she had never been wronged like this since she was young. Her tears fell on the spot. She cried like a pear blossom in the rain. Li Mu heard the crying and walked back. He was extremely surprised and asked, "What's wrong with you?" Bai Tingxin wiped her tears with one hand and pointed at him with the other. She said sadly, "You're biased." Li Mu felt even more wronged and asked, "How am I biased?" Bai Tingxin said, "You gave her immortal robe, magic treasures and even taught her techniques." "I don't have anything." Li Mu was stunned and said, "Didn't I give you the demon core?" Bai Tingxin felt wronged and said, "I've already given it to her." Li Mu still underestimated the relationship between the two sisters. It was not that he did not have good things, but the problem was the reasonable distribution. He did not want the two sisters to think that he was biased towards one of them. Li Mu said helplessly, "Then you come too." He gave the two sisters one immortal robe and one magic treasure each. Last time at Mount Baiyun the 6 sects were plundered. Lu Hanyin and Li Qin kept what they could use and gave the rest to Li Mu. His current wealth might not be as good as the Empress, but compared to some small sects, it was far more. The largest courtyard at the back of the Li residence was where Li Mu used to practice auxiliary divine arts. Here he could not practice powerful attacks such as thunder and sword techniques, but he could practice auxiliary techniques such as invisibility and transfiguration. Many times these auxiliary techniques could play a greater role. Li Mu walked to the lawn and said to Bai Yinxin, "What kind of mental cultivation method are you cultivating now?" Excluding external objects, the speed of cultivation depended on the cultivation method. Although the Qi refinement of Haotian Taoism was common, it was also a top cultivation method. It was just that Haotian Taoism did not hide it, and Buddhism also had its own sutras. In comparison, the demon race could not compare with humans in terms of cultivation. It was very rare for birds and beasts to have spiritual intelligence. They could only rely on their instincts to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and their cultivation speed was very slow. Although the two sisters were born with a golden spoon in their mouths and had cultivated mental cultivation methods since they were young, their cultivation method was not the most suitable for them. Bai Yinxin told Li Mu the cultivation method of the two sisters. Li Mu found that their cultivation was actually just ordinary Qi refinement. It seemed that the cultivation method of the snake race had been lost, or no one had comprehended it from the heavenly book. Li Mu looked at Bai Yinxin and said, "Sit down cross-legged. From today onwards, you will cultivate according to the method I taught you." Bai Yinxin did not ask anything and obediently sat down cross-legged. Under Li Mu's signal, she slowly stretched out her hands. Li Mu sat cross-legged in front of her and connected his palms with hers. He guided the mana in his body into hers and circulated it through a special path. The cultivation method of the snake race was very simple. There was only one way from the first realm to the ninth realm. It was far less complicated than the fox races. Each tale had its own cultivation method, and even the heavenly book had its own page. Bai Yinxin circulated her mana according to the method Li Mu taught her. Just as Li Mu withdrew his hands, Bai Yinxin impatiently sat down cross-legged and said, "It's my turn, it's my turn." She casually lifted the hem of her skirt, revealing two smooth, jade-like calves. Li Mu pulled the hem of her skirt down and completely covered her body before his palms touched hers. Bai Yinxin took the opportunity to insert her fingers into Li Mu's fingers. The two palms connected and became 10 fingers interlocked. Li Mu glared at her and said, "Behave yourself." Bai Yinxin pouted and said, "Hold it tighter like this." Li Mu ignored her and closed his eyes. He channeled his mana and quickly circulated it through her body. He said, "Follow the path of my mana in your body and circulate it once." Bai Yinxin said embarrassedly, "Uncle, I didn't remember." "Do it again." Li Mu had no choice but to channel his mana into her body again and circulate it through her body. "I forgot again." "Do it again." "I remember less than half this time." "More than half. Just a little bit more." Helping others was a very taxing task. After a few times, Li Mu powerlessly laid on the grass. Sweat seeped out of his forehead as his chest heaved up and down. He said, I can't do it anymore." "Let's talk about it tomorrow." Bai Yinxin pulled him up and said, "One more time, one last time." Chapter 461. In the end, Li Mu was forced by the little green snake to do it again. Then he lay on the grass and did not want to move anymore. The White Demon King couple were rather content. They wandered the world and lived the life Li Mu wanted to live, but they gave their daughter to him. Li Mu not only had to take care of their food and clothing, he also had to worry about their cultivation. Fortunately, Bai Yinxin finally remembered this last time and began to cultivate according to the new Heart Sutra like her sister. The two sisters sat cross-legged on the grass with their eyes closed, but their faces gradually revealed a shocked expression. They could clearly feel that the surrounding spiritual chi of the world was surging into their bodies at an extremely fast speed. It was several times faster than their usual cultivation speed. This meant that their cultivation speed in the future would also increase by several times. This kind of Heart Sutra seemed to be tailor-made for the snake race. After circulating her mana for a cycle, Bai Yinxin opened her eyes and stared straight at Li Mu. She asked, "Uncle, are you a snake like us?" Other than the snake race, she could not think of anyone else who could create this kind of cultivation Heart Sutra. Li Mu knocked her head. "What are you talking about? Impudent." Bai Yinxin gently twisted her body and slid to Li Mu's side. She bit her lower lip and said softly, "I was wrong." Li Mu got up from the grass and said, "You two take your time cultivating. I still have things to do. If there's anything you don't understand, ask me." Before Bai Yinxin slid into his arms, Li Mu hurriedly left the courtyard. She used to be angry with T. After not seeing her for such a long time, her anger had gotten worse. Moreover, she was intentionally or unintentionally teasing him. Li Mu had to be on guard against her. Different from her sister, this green snake did not care about the things that humans did. What etiquette, what shame, what forbidden love, she probably did not have such awareness at all. Early the next morning, Li Mu arrived at the Jianghu Palace. The Secretariat had already drafted the memorial establishing the Great Zhou Demon Registry. Furthermore, it had been reviewed and approved by the sect. In the end, as long as the Empress Jade Seal was stamped, it could be handed over to the Secretariat for specific implementation. Inside the hall, Mr. May looked at Li Mu and asked, "What did you do yesterday? Why are you so pale and weak?" Li Mu sighed and said, "Don't mention it, the two snakes at home are too clingy. Yesterday my mana was drained by them and I almost couldn't get out of bed in the morning." Zhou Yi and Shangguan Li, who were reading, suddenly looked at Li Mu. Mr. May was both embarrassed and angry. He said, "Bastard, this is His Majesty's bedchamber. Don't say anything." In addition, the snake clan's poison techniques were something that even high-level cultivators would be wary of. Although the two sisters looked sweet, they were actually more poisonous than the other. In the natural world, the more beautiful an animal or plant was, the more likely it was to be poisonous. Li Mu didn't forget that Wu Bo was almost poisoned to death by Yin Xin. If he was really poisoned, other than antidote pills, any Fulu talisman would be useless. As a human, Li Mu could learn about 50 to 60% of some demon clan abhijna. However, even if he was squeezed dry, he wouldn't be able to squeeze out a drop of poison. However, this didn't mean that Li Mu couldn't teach them. In terms of theoretical knowledge, he wasn't afraid of anyone. Li Mu was teaching them how to turn the poison into a mist and then condense it into a poison arrow to cause an area attack. Bai Yinxin learned quickly. In just an hour she was already very proficient. Li Mu walked to Bai Tingxin and said, "It's your turn. Go all out and attack me with the spell I just taught you." Bai Tingxin shook her head and said, "But what if I hurt uncle?" Li Mu glanced at her and said, "I won't blame you even if you hurt me. If you can hurt me, I can promise you one more thing." Bai Tingxin said excitedly, "You said it. Pinky swear." Li Mu stretched out his little finger and hooked it with her white finger. Bai Tingxin retreated to the side and spat out a cloud of poison mist from her mouth. Soon it surrounded Li Mu. In the poison mist, one couldn't see anything in front of them. Whoosh! An undetectable sound of wind breaking came from the poison mist. Li Mu slightly leaned his body and dodged a poison arrow. Whoosh! 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 In the poison mist, poison arrows were constantly shot from all directions. Li Mu tilted his head and lifted his feet to dodge the poison needles. He always locked onto a breath in the poison mist. At a certain moment, when several poison arrows were shot, Li Mu's figure flashed and disappeared from the spot. He appeared beside the breath and stretched out his hand to grab it. A long object was caught in Li Mu's hand. Then a trace of doubt appeared in Li Mu's eyes. Even if she revealed her true form, it wouldn't be so thin and hard. Li Mu withdrew his hand and found that he was holding the sword he gave Bai Tingxin. Her emerald green shirt was hanging on the sword. Then, a head quietly appeared beside his wrist and gently bit his wrist. Li Mu felt a sharp pain in his wrist. Then his whole body began to feel numb. His legs went soft and he fell into Bai Tingxin's arms. Bai Tingxin hugged him and said with a smile, "Uncle, I won." Li Mu never thought that he would be pecked in the eye by a wild goose all day long. He played with snakes all day long and finally got his wrist bitten by a snake. Bai Tingxin was smart enough to use the concealment technique he taught her to hide her breath. He doesn't care if you call him big brother or father-in-law. Like father, like daughter. Li Mu finally knew why Bai Tingxin's personality was like that. He could no longer persuade her from an ethical point of view. He thought about it and said, "But I already have a wife." Bai Tingxin pointed at Wanwan and Xiaobai who were not far away and said, "You still have them. This is not your excuse." Li Mu opened his mouth and finally looked at Bai Yinxin and said helplessly, "You have to control your sister." It was too close to the divine capital and there were too many cultivators. No demons dared to cause trouble here. Instead, they were worried that the cultivators would steal their souls. They longed to go to the demon nation. However, as local demons of the Great Zhou who grew up here, they were already familiar with this place. No one wanted to and no one dared to leave. With their cultivation, it was very likely that they would die on the way to the demon nation before reaching it. In a mountain somewhere in Central County, a dozen figures sat cross-legged in an open space filled with fallen leaves. All the demons who had taken human form within 100 miles were gathered here. These demons usually cultivated in their own hidden abodes. Other than those who were close to them, they rarely gathered. This was the first time they had gathered together. Not long ago, the Great Zhou court announced a piece of news. From today onwards, any demon who cultivated in the Great Zhou could apply to become a demon citizen of the Great Zhou. After reporting to the government and becoming a demon citizen, they could still cultivate in their original abodes. Furthermore, they did not have to worry about being devoured by stronger demons or being hunted down by human cultivators. As long as they became a demon citizen of the Great Zhou, the court would protect them as if they were ordinary citizens. As monsters, their greatest danger was their more powerful brethren and human cultivators. If their safety could be guaranteed, they could cultivate in peace. To them this was a great thing. It was so good that they felt it was unreal. Among the demons, a tiger demon with 3 horizontal lines on its forehead said in a deep voice, "What do you all think about this?" A leopard demon said, "If this is true, then it's great. We don't have to worry about those human cultivators anymore. We don't have to hide anymore. We can cultivate openly in the mountains." Idiot! Another wolf demon's face darkened. He gritted his teeth and said, "This is a conspiracy of the humans. Humans are cruel and cunning. Why would they be so nice to demons for no reason? They must want to catch us all in one fell swoop. Have you forgotten how your parents died?" The leopard demon's face was filled with hatred. He gritted his teeth and said, "It's those damned human cultivators." Following that, the other demons also spoke. "Brother Wolf is right. Humans are the most cruel and cunning. This must be their conspiracy. They want to lure us out and kill us as easily as blowing off dust. The goal of the human court is too obvious. Who would be stupid enough to believe humans? Everyone ignore it. Whoever goes will be courting death." In the sky above the demons, Li Mu merged with the canopy. He sighed inwardly. Changing the demons' understanding of humans was not something that could be done overnight. After returning to the divine capital, Li Mu had already thought of the next step of the plan. To make these demons believe in the court, he had to show them the court's sincerity. Li Mu needed the cooperation of some demons to set an example for the other demons. There was no one more suitable than Brother White's subordinates. Li Mu walked into the Li residence and saw Bai Tingxin, Wan Wan, and Xiao Bai chatting and laughing around the empress. He walked in front of Bai Yinxin and said, "Yinxin, can you help me contact your father? I have something important to talk to him about." Bai Yinxin took out a spirit snail and imbued it with magic power. After saying a few words, she handed it to Li Mu. Li Mu greeted him briefly and then went straight to the point to tell him about it. The White Demon King said straightforwardly, "You can do as you see fit. You can bring Yinxin and Tingxin along. They will arrange it for you." Li Mu smiled and said, "Thank you, Brother White." The White Demon King said, "We're family. It's my duty." Li Mu said a few more words of courtesy before saying, "Then Brother White, I'll take Yinxin back tomorrow." The White Demon King said, "Wait a moment." Li Mu asked, "Is there anything else?" The White Demon King said, "I heard from Tingxin that you're now a minister of the Great Zhou court and a favorite of the Great Zhou Empress. You have a very high status and identity. When I became sworn brothers with you back then, I didn't expect you to have this day." Li Mu smiled and said, "This won't affect our relationship as brothers." The White Demon King said, "No, no, no. With your status and identity, how can you become sworn brothers with a demon? How will others look at you? From now on, don't call me brother anymore. I don't have a brother like you, but our relationship is still there. I hope you don't think too much." Li Mu was stunned and said, "Brother White, this?" The White Demon King smiled and said, "I'm doing this for your own good. Don't call me Brother White anymore. That's all. I still have other things to do. I'll take my leave." Li Mu held the snail that no longer made any sound and was at a loss. At the same time, thousands of miles away in the depths of the Eastern Sea, in a crystal palace. On a huge clam bed, a woman with 2 horns on her head rolled her eyes at the White Demon King and said angrily, "You're spoiling your daughter." The White Demon King did not care at all and said, "Back then your father did everything he could to stop us. It's not like you don't know how difficult it was for us. I won't let my daughter suffer like this." He smiled at the woman under him and said, "You just have to look for me at this time. It's only been 4 hours. Come, let's continue." As soon as he finished speaking, the open clam shell slowly closed. Divine Capital, Li Residence. Li Mu returned the spirit snail to Bai Yinxin and did not come back to his senses for a long time. Everything was fine. What was he trying to do now? Bai Tingxin skipped over and said happily, "Uncle, you're back." When she ran to Li Mu, she pretended to be enlightened. "I almost forgot. Last time, my father said that he wanted to cut ties with you. I don't have to call you uncle anymore. What should I call you in the future? Benefactor, young master, or brother?" Because he had to deal with memorials for a long time every day, his energy was greatly depleted. He slept until late in the morning. When he woke up, Li Mu's physical and mental exhaustion had been swept away. When his body and mind were completely relaxed, he even had a dream. It was an extremely erotic dream. He had been separated from Lu Hanyan for a few months, and he had also been abstinent for a few months. For a newlywed who had tasted the forbidden fruit for the first time, it was a very difficult few months. Li Mu admitted that he was a lustful person, but even a lustful person had a bottom line. However, things like dreaming were not something that could be controlled by his subjective consciousness. Li Mu smelled the fragrance on the quilt that belonged to Bai Tingxin and swore that he would not sleep here tonight. Recalling the contents of the dream, he felt a little ashamed. He felt sorry for calling brother Bai countless times. Bai Yinxin had already woken up. She helped Li Mu bring his toiletries. Li Mu walked out of bed and said, "Thank you, Yinxin. Leave it there. I'll do it myself." Bai Yinxin still helped him wet the towel. After wringing it dry, she handed it to him. In fact, cultivators had their own supernatural powers to avoid dust. However, most of the time they still maintained the habits of ordinary people. This could make them feel that they were still human at all times, reducing the possibility of inner demons during the cultivation process. After washing up, Li Mu walked out of the room. The demons under the White Demon King had received the summons and had rushed over overnight. After hearing the Green Bull Demon and the Tiger King explain the purpose of gathering them, some of the demons were overjoyed, while others expressed their worries. Could this be a conspiracy of the imperial court? Why would they do something that is only beneficial to the demons for no reason? This is a matter of great importance. It's better to be careful. The demons' guard against humans was engraved in their bones, blood, and genes. It was impossible to convince them with just a few words. Fortunately, they did not completely refuse because of the White Demon King. In order to dispel their concerns, Li Mu made some concessions. The demons of the North County did not need to go to the various government offices to register. He would transfer a few officials from the county office to help them register their demons here. This could dispel some of their concerns. Many demons believed that the entire matter was a conspiracy of the imperial court. The day they went to the government office to register their names would be the day they died. In addition, the demons of the Great Zhou did not need to listen to the orders of the local government. After the demons were registered, they would establish a demon division that specialized in dealing with demons. There were demon officials in the demon division who were local powerful demons. They could receive a salary from the imperial court and command the demons of a county. Although this would increase the expenses of the national treasury, after Li Mu reformed the consecration department, the national treasury had a large amount of expenses left. It was more than enough to pay the salaries of the demon officials of the demon division. The demons of the various counties, regardless of race, were forbidden from killing each other. Once discovered, the demon division would directly capture them. After reporting to the imperial court, they would be dealt with according to the laws of the Great Zhou. If a cultivator harmed or killed a demon, the demon division could also capture them and hand them over to the imperial court. In addition, demons with a certain level of strength could complete missions issued by the various government offices in exchange for spiritual jades, dharma treasures, fulu, pills, and other cultivation resources. When they heard about the benefits of being registered as a demon, the demons of the North County were in an uproar. Being registered as a demon in the Great Zhou seemed to only have benefits for them. There were no disadvantages at all. Weak demons not only had difficulty cultivating, but they also had to worry about being devoured by powerful demons at all times. They usually hid and did not dare to reveal any demon chi. After being registered as a demon, the weak rabbit demons, fox demons, and so on could also appear openly in front of the tiger demons, wolf demons, bear demons, and other natural enemies. If they dared to touch a single hair of theirs, they would be punished by the demon division and the imperial court. Not only was the safety of the small demons guaranteed, but the powerful demons also heaved a sigh of relief. Their strength was only relative. Compared to the sharpness of dharma treasures, the power of supernatural powers, and the mysterious cultivators of Fulu, they were also absolute weaklings. Usually they only dared to hide in the depths of the mountains and forests and did not dare to easily appear in human cities. Even so, they still had to worry about human cultivators coming to their door, killing them, and taking their souls and demon cores to cultivate. With the demon registration, everything was different. Even demons had a strong sense of belonging to the land under their feet. If they could have a powerful backer to support them, who would be willing to be a weak mountain spirit with no one to rely on. From now on, their identities were no longer mountain demons, but the demons of the Great Zhou. Anyone who wanted to harm them had to consider carefully whether they could afford to offend the Great Zhou court. The White Demon King was very prestigious in the hearts of the demons of the North County. After the news spread, the demons of the North County began to rush here, afraid that they would miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity if they were too late. Li Mu opened his heavenly eye and saw the large and small demon auras in the mountains. He was gratified. As expected, the demons did not trust the imperial court, but they trusted the demons. This time the White Demon King had helped him greatly. It was not in vain that he had spent so much effort on his 2 daughters. It was late at night. Li Mu was still thinking about all kinds of possible changes when Bai Yinxi knocked on the door and walked in with a bowl of ginseng soup. She said, "Brother Li, you've been busy all day. Drink this bowl of ginseng soup and rest early." "Thank you, Yinxi." Li Mu took the bowl and found that the soup in the bowl was neither cold nor hot. He drank a few mouthfuls and then asked, "Yinxin, are there any other empty rooms here?" Bai Yinxin asked, "What's wrong? Is Brother Li not comfortable sleeping here?" Li Mu nodded and said, "I'm not used to sleeping in Tingxin's room." Bai Yinxin thought for a moment and said, "Then I'll sleep here. You can sleep in my room next door." After drinking the ginseng soup, she brought Li Mu to her room. Although the 2 sisters were born from the same parents, their personalities were completely different. Their rooms were also completely different. The younger sister's room was as messy as a snake's nest, while the elder sister's room was clean and tidy. It gave people a very comfortable feeling. The only thing in common between the 2 rooms was that the quilts were very fragrant. Li Mu lay on the bed and fell asleep amidst a faint fragrance. The next day he still didn't wake up until late in the morning. Li Mu sat on the bed and recalled the dream last night. After being stunned for a long time, he slapped himself and said angrily, "I'm not human." In the past few days, the lives of the people of the North County had not changed much. They worked at sunrise and rested at sunset, day after day. However, the demon world of the North County was in an uproar. The mountain spirits and wild monsters of the past could now have their own identities. They did not have to worry about becoming food for the great demons, nor did they have to worry about being killed by human cultivators. Their demon lives would undergo unprecedented changes. Under the push of the demons under the White Demon King, the matter of the demons of the North County being registered began to unfold on a grand scale. Some demons were happy while others were worried. The disciples of the Fulu school were still fine. They were not allowed to casually kill demons and seize their souls to cultivate. This was the rule of the sect. However, for some human itinerant cultivators or cultivators from small sects, this was not a good thing. Resources were indispensable on the path of cultivation. They were not like the large sects or those powerful existences who could occupy treasured lands with abundant spirit chi to cultivate. They were also not like the cultivators who relied on the imperial court who could exchange contributions for spirit jades. However, they were not willing to cultivate slowly. If they wanted to speed up their cultivation, they could only take the souls of others and refine them to strengthen themselves. They usually did not dare to make a move on humans because the Great Zhou court would investigate. No matter how strong their cultivation was, they would not be able to escape punishment. Therefore they only dared to make a move on the demons. But now they could not even touch the demons. What the hell is the imperial court doing? What does the life and death of the demons have to do with them? They don't even allow us to kill the demons. How are we going to cultivate? Hateful, really hateful. The demon world was grateful to the Great Zhou court, but the human cultivators were resentful of the imperial court because of this. Through various channels they spread their dissatisfaction. Divine Capital, Imperial Palace. The local officials of the various prefectures had reported back the news as soon as possible. In the morning court, several officials looked worried. They bowed and said, "Your Majesty, isn't it a little inappropriate to offend the human race in order to win over the demons? Should we discuss this matter further?" Before the Empress could speak, a figure stepped out from the crowd. Zhang Chun stood in the middle of the hall and said in a deep voice, "My lords, you are wrong. Humans are born from their mothers and demons are born from their mothers. Humans and demons are all living creatures in the world. Human lives are lives and so are the lives of demons. As the most powerful country in the Celestial Empire, the Great Zhou must have a broader structure. We cannot just focus on one place. Besides, winning over the demons and giving them fair treatment will highlight the magnanimity of the great country of the Great Zhou. It will also highlight your Majesty's breadth of mind. Winning over the demons is beneficial to the peaceful coexistence of humans and demons, to the stability of the counties, and to the cohesion of the people's faith. Those human cultivators who only want to kill and walk the crooked path have contributed nothing to the great show. Why should we spoil them? Are they worthy? If they dare to blabber and stir up the emotions of the people again, I'll catch a few of them and make an example out of them. The words of Li Mu's #1 henchman Zhang Chun caused the court to fall silent. This person's words were crude but reasonable. How much benefit would it bring to the court by incorporating the demons? After several rounds of discussion, everyone agreed that this was a win-win situation for both the demons and the Great Zhou. From a humanitarian point of view, this was also the embodiment of the magnanimity of a great country. It would definitely be praised by future generations. On the other hand, some human cultivators, ever since they embarked on the path of cultivation, had completely broken away from the control of the Great Zhou. They ignored the law and used martial arts to break the rules, often causing headaches for the local government. The court actually did not encourage too many people to cultivate. For this reason, the local government kept the registration of newborns a secret. For the sake of some people who disobeyed the rules of the court and often caused chaos, it was clearly the height of stupidity to affect this important matter that would benefit the future generations. Soon, the court officials' opinions were unified with Zhang Chun's. After the court, Zhou Yi returned to Chengdu Palace and asked Mr. Mei, "Are there any 6-section residences in the North Court?" Mr. Mei said, "I'll go and check in a while." Zhou Yi nodded and said, "If there are any, give them to Zhang Chun." Mr. Mei sighed, "It's only been a year and he's moved several times." Zhou Yi said, "Give them to him. Otherwise, someone will come back and say that I've neglected his people." Speaking of someone, Zhou Yi remembered that she had not heard his voice for 3 days. In these 3 days she had activated the spirit snail, but there had been no response from the other side. A few months ago when he was undercover in Meizong, it was fine if he did not respond to him. But what was he doing in these 3 days? Zhou Yi activated the spirit snail again. This time, a familiar voice finally came from the other side. Zhou Yi asked in a low voice, "What have you been doing in these 3 days? Why didn't you come back to me?" The other side of the spirit snail was silent for a moment. Reality proved that even if it was a pill from 3,000 years ago, as long as it was preserved properly, its medicinal effects would not be affected. Li Mu's efforts were not wasted. In just 3 days the 2 demons had refined the pills and reached the 5th level. As long as they stabilized for a while, they would be able to use the full power of the 5th level. In order to increase their strength again, Li Mu taught them the techniques of their race and gave them new weapons. The Green Bull demon received a steel mace. The Tiger demon received a 9-ringed saber. They were both high-grade Earth-level magic treasures. After the 2 demons received them, they could not bear to part with them and went outside to spar. The North County Demon Division finally had a decent master. A 5th-level demon cultivator could barely be considered a master in the demon nation. But in the Great Zhou demon world they could do whatever they wanted. However, the strength of the entire demon division was still not enough in front of a true master. Other than the spirit-gathering formation, Li Mu also planned to help them set up a defensive formation. The highest level of formations was not to use spiritual jades or formation flags to form a formation to block the enemy. Instead, it used the power of heaven and earth. According to different terrains, it borrowed the power of heaven and earth to form a formation. For Xin, who had just come into contact with formations, this was still difficult to understand. When Li Mu set up the formation, he would let her observe and then explain it to her in detail. On a mountain wall somewhere, Li Mu and Xin, one on top and one on the bottom, were carving formation patterns. Formation patterns were similar to Fulu. These seemingly random lines could mobilize the power of heaven and earth. As Li Mu drew, he sighed. It was good to bring Xin out. She would only cause trouble for him and take advantage of him. Xin was completely different. She was obedient and capable. She reduced his burden by a lot. After Li Mu finished drawing a part of the formation patterns, he felt the spirit snail vibrate. He took out the spirit snail and the Empress's voice came from it. "What are you doing?" Li Mu said honestly, I'm helping the North County Demon Division set up a formation. The Empress liked to check on Li Mu. If she missed a call from the spirit snail, she could make dozens or hundreds of calls. Li Mu reported on his recent work and the progress of the North County Demon Division. He also chatted with the Empress and learned about the protests of the independent cultivators in the Great Show. Li Mu had already expected this. The imperial court protected the demons, but it had little impact on the disciples of the large sections. The Fulu school and other large sects had strict restrictions on their disciples. They were not allowed to kill demons to take the shortcut of cultivation. The air here was filled with dense spirit qi, which was many times denser than the spirit qi in his cave abode in Yunzhong County. He took a deep breath and coughed due to the impact of the spiritual aura. Hu Chang's eyes lit up. If he could cultivate in such a place, wouldn't his cultivation soar? Bathing in such dense spiritual energy, he would be able to advance to the 5th realm in another 10 years. Haha cousin, long time no see. A hearty laugh came from the front. Hu Chang looked over and a smile appeared on his face. He quickly walked over and said, Congratulations on advancing to the Archfiend realm, cousin. The Tiger King put his arm around his shoulder and said, Let's go. Let's have a good drink today. Hu Chang followed the Tiger King for a few steps and saw a magnificent house in front of him. If he was not in the mountains, he would have thought that he was in a human town. As Hu Chang walked, he asked, Cousin, what's going on? The Tiger King laughed and said, Your cousin is now the North County Demon Commander of the Great Show. I'm in charge of the demons in the North County. Of course I can't live as casually as before. Hu Chang was shocked and asked, Cousin, have you submitted to the Imperial Court? The Tiger King said unhappily, Submit? What do you mean submit? I'm in charge of the demons, protect them and work for them. How can that be considered submitting? Don't call me that. Hu Chang said a few words and asked expectantly, Cousin, can I come here to cultivate in the future? The Tiger King said, You're doing well in Yunzhong County. What are you doing here? Hu Chang said honestly, The spiritual qi here is much more abundant than in my cave abode. It's faster to cultivate here. The Tiger King glanced at him and said, Look at you. It's just a spirit gathering array. When the time comes, I'll get someone to set one up for you. Hu Chang quickly said, No need, no need. I'll just cultivate with you. He was not stupid. Without strength, what was the use of a spirit gathering array? In the Great Zhou, the blessed grotto heavens with abundant spiritual qi were all occupied by humans. Some of the inferior cave abodes that human cultivators looked down on were also occupied by demon cultivators. He was just a small demon of the 4th realm. If he cultivated in such a place with abundant spiritual qi, it would not be long before a stronger human or demon took over his cave abode. They would use his tiger skin as a blanket and cut off his penis to make wine. To them, possessing treasures that did not match their strength was akin to wishing for an early death. The Tiger King led him into the house that he had just built and said, Actually, I've asked you to come here for an important matter. You should know that the Imperial Court is planning to establish a demon division in each county to manage the demon race. There are no suitable candidates in Yunzhong County for the time being. On the flying boat, Bainshin said doubtfully, The demon kings of the nearby counties all know each other. Back then father brought me and Tingshin to the Black Bear tribe. Although the Black Bear King looks fierce, he's actually a reasonable demon king. He usually restrains his subordinates and does not let them harm humans. Logically speaking, he should agree to this matter that benefits both humans and demons. Regardless of whether he was a reasonable bear or not, incorporating the demons was the Imperial Court's policy. It would not change for anyone. The demons of the counties could choose not to cooperate with the Imperial Court and not be registered as demons. However, if anyone dared to openly oppose the Imperial Court, they would not have a good ending. The two flew for more than 2 hours and entered the territory of Zhejiang County. Bainshin pointed at a mountain in front and said, It's there. That's the cave of the Black Bear tribe. Li Mu and she landed on a mountain. Bainshin said doubtfully, That's strange. There should be bear demons guarding this place. Where did they go? Li Mu sensed and discovered a few powerful demon auras in the distance. He said in a low voice, Don't speak. Follow me. Black Bear Ridge. To the people of Zhejiang County, this name was perhaps unfamiliar. Zhejiang County had many mountains and many demons in the mountains. The people usually did not go deep into the mountains. Even the boldest woodcutter only moved about halfway up the mountain. However, to the demons of Zhejiang County, there was not a single demon that did not know about Black Bear Ridge. That was the territory of the Bear Demon clan. The leader of the Bear Demon clan was a level 5 bear demon. He was one of the few demon clan experts in the Zhejiang County. Other demon clans did not dare to provoke the Bear Demon clan. However, at this moment, the bear demons that dominated Zhejiang County were in an extremely miserable state. A few bear demons that had yet to take human form were tied to trees. They were being whipped until their skin and flesh were lacerated. They kept howling. The bear demons that had taken human form and condensed their golden core were enraged. They wanted to save them, but they were also in danger. Under the attacks of the other figures, they could not fight back at all. The only 5th realm bear demon was trapped in a huge barrier of light and could not escape. A handsome man looked at the bear demon within the light barrier and said with a smile, "How about it? Agree to our conditions and I'll immediately release your subordinates. If you still refuse to come to your senses, I'll kill a black bear every 15 minutes and chop off its paws." The bear demon said angrily, "I have no intention of becoming your enemy, nor will I submit to the Great Zhou court. Why must you force me?" The handsome man shook his head. "In our eyes, if you're not a friend, you're an enemy. You've already wasted some time.